We are back with episode 11 of season 5, and before we jump in, I want to take a moment to highlight that we've partnered with our good friends over at Schiller to co-present this season. I've been advising Schiller for the last year or so as they help consult and market some of the most vibrationally aligned companies in the space. They're releasing their new season and curated alongside this season of We Do A Little, so be on the lookout for new episodes from them, including some of our favorite people such as Brian Brinkman, Sasha Stiles, Chris F., and more. Links to their podcast are in the description of the episode. I had to announce the rest of season 5 is powered by Talons. Built on base and running on River, Talons is decentralized and permissionless group chat app that allows anyone to create and own digital town squares on their own rules. Think of Discord, but on-chain. It's available on web and iOS with full end-to-end encryption. Users can join or create feature-rich towns with native on-chain gating, paid memberships, and more, with tons of exciting features and rewards coming soon. We're also doing a little collabing with our friends over at Schiller in a joint town for our communities, so make sure to tap in to get access to some towns-exclusive giveaways, rewards, and more. We also have an art share channel where we tip people who share art with a short write-up of why they're sharing it. So if you have any art that you want to share with our community, please share it in the art share channel and get some tips for your time. Head on over to Towns to get started. The link to join our town is in the show notes below. Also, periodic reminder that every episode of this podcast is available to mint on pods.media. Each episode costs about $1.50, and holders of our pod NFTs get an airdrop at the end of the season with the art I create for each episode. So if you like any of the thumbnail art for a specific episode, collect it and I will airdrop you the high resolution piece at the end of the season. I put a lot of time and care into the art for this pod, and it's a nice way to share my art with the world with super low expectations. Without further ado, let's dive into this week's episode. In the 11th episode of season 5, we are joined by the mysterious, anonymous, and quite frankly, a wee bit unhinged artist Oona. Oona is known for her chaotic and powerful performance-based art featuring themes of sexuality, freedom, and absurdity. We dive into her background before Oona, the birth of Oona, the importance of anonymity, reflections on the intersection of crypto and art, unexpected reactions during her performances, thoughts on AI, ethics and implications of sex robots, her upcoming performance at the NASDAQ, and so much more. As always, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon for investment decisions. Dees, Redbeard, and guests may be invested in companies or tokens talked about on this podcast.
Back at Shipwreck. I always love being shipwrecked with Dees. We have a really special guest today. Somebody who I think is very, underspoken and quiet and very
Reserved.
under the radar, very reserved.
Subtle.
Yeah. We have an incredible artist with us, Dees, and her name is Oona.
Hello. Hi.
Thank you for coming.
My pleasure. Always when Benny randomly texts you, hey, be here at this time, the answer is just usually, yeah, all right.
Well, it's even stranger. I'm like, be here at this hotel in room 306 before I said it was a
And
podcast.
she told the people downstairs that she was an escort coming up to room 306.
Oh, boy.
I didn't quite say escort. They were like, who are you here to see? Are you Mrs. So-and-so? And I was like, no, I'm here for the husband.
Oh, great. Especially wearing that get up with your red gloves.
I know.
That-
This is video too, though.
Yes.
Yeah, so everyone can see.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah. People can
That's
see.
why you
Hey,
have to
all.
wear it.
Howdy.
So, Oona, thank you for coming. I mean, I guess we could start off with the most obvious question that everybody has for you. And that is, why the name Oona?
I suppose that's not the most obvious question.
I know, that's
I've
why.
I didn't know where Benny was going.
I was just kidding around. I mean, there's a million obvious questions. I just threw the one that was like not the most obvious question. So,
Well, yeah, this will be a little secret for the pod. Oona is a Gaelic translation of my real name.
Oh.
Yes, indeed. And we'll
People
kind
could
of
look that up.
leave it
I
at
thought
that.
you were just like,
We're
wow.
not going to do that now. Yeah.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that. That's something new I learned on the pod today.
Well, there you go. And give a little, secret.
I like that.
Are you like a fan of the Gaelic language or just?
I am. Yeah, you could say I'm a fan of the Gaelic language.
Okay.
Also, I kind of like that. It's just since I'm really subtle, very humble artist.
Right.
I thought I should choose just be like God, only one name.
Okay, just go by Oona. I love that.
I definitely wasn't expecting that.
No, I was not expecting that either. And is it spelled in Gaelic the way that you pronounce it, or?
No, the Irish have a very esoteric way of spelling things. I kind of kept it simple. It's like nah, done.
Oona.
Double O-N-A, we're done.
But that's
4
not how
letters.
what's the accent? It's like Oona.
I'm
I'm really bad at accents.
So not going to do an Irish accent now.
No.
I appreciate that
But
you're
could you
baiting
do an Irish
me.
accent?
Benny, I could do your accent.
You cannot do my accent.
You cannot do my accent.
No, what I sound like a gay white robot or something? What's going on over there?
Could be.
Yeah, I guess I could be.
Could be more fun.
So, like, Oona, you are an incredible artist. I've known you for a few years now. Dees and I collected art together. We've noticed many artists, and you are definitely an outspoken artist that leaves it all on the table, right? I think that's part of, when I say shtick, I don't mean that in a bad way. I think that's who you are. I mean, part of your art is being loud and obnoxious sometimes and in your face to prove a point. And I think sometimes when that happens with artists, a lot of people get turned off, right? With you, it seems like the opposite effect happens because you have like a just really precise way of doing it, that it's not almost too over the top, that it's obnoxious enough to be like, I don't like this. And there are some artists in our space who do that. You kind of like, you thread the needle so well in that way. And I think that's something that you obviously, Deez and I have spoken about, but you obviously had a practice to get there. So where did that come from,
Well, first of all, thank you for that compliment. I don't know. I think that, if you're speaking your truth, it's always going to kind of resonate with people, right? So it's quite annoying when people are whingy online about things that like really aren't their truth or aren't really important to them. And I think for me, I'm not really going to give a shit about something that's like flippant over there. I'm only really going to talk about, hey, what's the value of like a female artist's work? Why is there the disparity? And I'm not really afraid of like, you shouldn't say it. So a good example is I was born at NFT NYC, right? And I knew no one in this industry. I literally mean 0 people. I came in bare ass saying, we're going to figure this out. I've held crypto since 2016. So I know the tech, but I don't know the community. And this is perfect. I have, an art history background. I'm an artist. There's this new emergent place. Like, let's go. So I rock up to NFT NYC and...
You had your mask on by then?
I had my mask on, of course, naturally. And ironically, I got scammed out of a ticket. So I did that thing where you buy the ticket online.
Well, it was NFT NYC, so someone did you a favor.
Yeah, exactly. No, but this is before. Like, this was 2021 when it was
Spent
like...
hundreds of dollars on a ticket.
I spent hundreds of dollars on a ticket.
500 plus bucks.
Yeah, complete scam.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, well, fuck it, I'm here. So I just walked up to the door and I was like, I'm performing. And they were like, oh, go in. So then I just walked straight in.
I love that.
And I remember I went up, I'm like, schmoozing, doing the Oona thing, being very subtle in a room. And I walk into this stage and I'm like, wow, 4 guys on stage. One of them is from Time magazine. Wow, their legs are so spread, all of them. And they're making dick jokes. And I thought it was just one of the most pathetic things that I had seen in a very long time. So when they were like, are there any questions from the audience? I stood up and I was like, yeah, where's the fucking pussy? And then I walked out of the room. And that honestly got a lot of people to be like, who was she? And so that's how I kind of met all of the people at OpenSea. And, there's that tension of being flippant and on the nose. But it's funny, there are 2 compliments that I get when people meet me in real life. They're like, wow, you're actually nice. Or wow, you're actually smart. And I'm like, you didn't realize that's actually mean. But yeah, I think there's always a tension, right? We don't have to be
nice.
You're actually not that mean.
Well, online, you're saucy, and that's how you kind of get attention. We're feeding on a very
100%.
base algorithm.
And
I feel that.
I just tweeted recently, like, you could be, I have no problem with politics. I'm not a very political person personally. I kind of like to keep politics away from my life. But I do notice that there's a difference in people who are sometimes political in our space, and they're very loud and obnoxious and yelling. And it's like, but there's no substance to it. And I tend to feel like sometimes your tweets are a little more sometimes loud, but they have a little bit more context to them to like make a point, right?
If you can fucking find them.
If you can find them, exactly, because you're shadow banned, which we'll get to. But like, and it's some other female artists like that, like PL. So I feel like her tweets are always very, structured in a way. It's like, look, I feel a certain way politically, but like, or I want to make a message, but they're not like, well, like, if you, just like, well, you voted for that guy, so you're an asshole. Like, okay, well, that doesn't really get us anywhere, right?
That's why I don't vote.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Oh my God.
And yours is, well, we'll get there. Yeah, you and Deez have a lot to talk about.
I've never voted.
2 Americans dudes talking about how the political isn't about them.
Well, I voted personally. Deez didn't vote.
People can't get mad at me if I don't vote.
Correct. Well, here's the thing. Actually, this is the first time I voted in a very long time. I haven't voted in years. Like the last time I voted was I think I voted for Clinton. Not Hillary, Bill, literally. So that's how long ago it was. I just don't like.
I was
don't
probably
like
4 years
politics.
old the last time you voted.
I just hate voting. So, but anyways, my point is that is there something I know without doxing yourself, because I know you're anonymous, so we won't ask you too much about your past that you don't want to reveal. But is there something in your past that helped you get to this point where you were able to sort of thread that needle and be good at the way, like holding back but also giving at the same time?
My mom's a spicy bitch.
Okay. I like that.
know.
So you grew up around it, and you're like,
it was just like, I kind of grew up in a family where like you could speak your mind, but there was no lack of love.
yeah.
And I think there's a really good adage, right? It's like, oh God, let me see if I can remember this correctly, but it's anger plus love equals passion, right? So people love passionate people. If you're just angry, then you're kind of like this volcano that's like erupting and like, oh, this is the idea that I was having the other day. So, right, intensity is like a fire. Fire is very attractive when you're watching it and it's not going to burn you and you're not worried, right, that it's going to burn you. But if someone's just intense and they don't seem like they have any barriers, boundaries, or container, I don't want to be around that. I might get burnt. And so I think kind of framing the intensity or framing the passion and kind of, for me, grounding it within my own practice, within my own art, like that helps make it much more approachable and engageable. Because it's like, I mean, maybe I will just go off on the random person. I'm not going to put that out there. But
We all have to sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes somebody just puts some kindling too close to the fire. And
The gasoline is a little too close.
yeah, I mean, why were you pouring gas on the fire?
I have such a good one on this. So on Sunday, I was at Nowadays, which is a club in New York City. Obviously not without the mask. I was just having a good time. And I see this guy. And I was like, oh, you motherfucker, I remember you. So one time I had met him on the corner of like, after some, I think it must have been like after a panel that I was on actually with Matt Hall at like Loom. I met him outside and he was like, oh, are your lips like big or small underneath? Do you have like a mustache? And I was like, don't worry, darling. They all make the same shape when they tell you to fuck off. And so I see him at this club and I'm like, oh, this is so good.
But he doesn't know it's you.
No idea. I was like, I'm going to completely gag this guy. And I'm like, hey, Tim, how are you? His name's Tim. Hey, Tim, how are you? And he's like, hey, I don't think we know each other. And I'm like, yeah. Remember that weird girl that you met with the mask on and I told you to fuck off? And he just dropped his jaw. I turned around and walked straight into like the crowd.
Yeah.
So he's probably there thinking like, was
Wait,
that
what?
real?
Did that happen?
That's
So
like
anyway,
a
yes.
classic New York moment, I feel like.
So good.
Something that never happened in Ohio. You never see that
No.
person that you saw outside of a conference.
I think anonymity is like for certain people is important. I know Deez is anonymous. Are you still anonymous?
Ish.
Are
I
you-
wear sunglasses.
But
That's
on
where
this
I'm at now.
pod, you still have your thing on this. pod.
On these episodes, I still have my punk over
Okay,
face.
so you have your punk.
But
on.
like on the Tuesday shows, I wear sunglasses.
So maybe it's time to get rid of the punk.
No. Because then I'd have to wear sunglasses. I was telling her, it's like,
Right.
I can either wear sunglasses or I can wear these and like see better, but put a punk over my face.
I gave up on being anonymous. I'm too old to be anonymous.
Well, you've been.
Yeah, it's like I give up. Like I don't even want to. But I do feel like it's been a little worrisome lately about
The break-ins?
for me, it's two things. It's the
Yeah.
break-ins.
Yeah.
I would say the
that's fucking
break-ins
scary.
are just concerning me a tiny bit. Also, like
The Ledger dude lost fingers.
I mean, I wouldn't. Here's the thing. I should be very, very honest. If I lost a finger,
You'd leave.
I'd be totally okay with that.
Really?
Yeah. Like I've always wanted to get shot in the arm. Like saving somebody.
How,
Like
you're not
many
doing
guns
yourself
have
any
you shot in
favors.
your life?
I've shot a bunch of guns. Yeah.
How many times have you been shot?
No, never. That's what I'm saying. I want to be shot at least once. Like, I want to like be in a situation where I get shot, like in like a crazy situation, get shot in the arm, like nowhere, like somewhere like here.
Like in your leg. Like
Or
not
my
your,
leg.
Not your torso.
Yeah.
Guys,
no,
it's
no,
like
no,
a
no, no.
Joseph Boys
Somewhere,
piece.
This is a very American conversation.
somewhere where like
wanna
I
get
could
shot.
survive,
I like
and then I
that.
could say I got shot. This is the same thing like when the hurricane came to New York. I don't know if you remember, like I don't know, maybe 12 years ago. I waited till the eye was over Manhattan, and I went outside, and I ran to my friend's house, and I ran back as quickly as I could. He was like 2 blocks away, but I always wanted to be in the eye.
Did you take
of the
a
storm.
video of it?
I mean, no, I don't know. I have
I think
videos
you
from a long
might
time
need,
ago. What?
Like a little bit, like you might need some help on that.
No, I just think I like to experience things. It's like, well, I was in the eye of a storm. Like, I want to get shot. Like, don't want to jump out.
If you want to get shot, I feel like there's places within 5 miles you could go to really
No.
greatly
It can't just be like I want someone to shoot me.
Okay.
I want to be in a situation where I get shot.
This is a performance art piece. It's this artist. I think it might even be Joseph. Maybe it's Joseph Beuys. But he has his brother shoot him, and he shoots him in a gallery against a white wall. But his brother basically just like grazes the arm.
This would be.
I feel like you could get shot in the ear.
Yeah, I get shot in the ear. Like, I lose half my ear.
Yeah, you know.
Like, I'm married, so it's not like I'm going anywhere anyways. So, like, I don't have to look. I can have half an ear.
Amir is gonna love this one.
She's gonna care that much. I guess I would just try anything once.
Yeah, I'll get shot once.
Yeah, why not?
For anyone listening, we're not this base.
No, I'm just saying, like, like just one time.
He literally went from I'm worried about all the kidnappings and things happening in crypto to like, but I would get shot once.
I'm really worried about other things like my identity.
He's like asking to get robbed. He's basically
No,
saying it's okay. If
Anyone listening with a gun and really good aim.
I don't want to get robbed. I'm just saying if they cut my finger off, it would be like there was a time I had this thing on my finger, and I had to get it taken off, and I didn't want to go to the doctor, and I went to the doctor. He's like, you have to get surgery. This is like, I don't know, not that long ago, probably like 5 years ago.
Like a cyst or a wart?
It was like a tumor, like small cyst or something. I don't know, whatever it was.
Okay.
And it was not. No, it wasn't a wart. Wart, I would have cut off myself or something.
Benny's like playing in the playground.
It was like some kind of growth or something. I don't know. It was
playing with toads.
And I went and he said he had to like take it off. So I told my wife I was going to cut the top of my finger off. Just to like see, and then I was gonna like just to cut. Like, can you imagine? Like just the top.
No,
right
I'm
here.
not. I can't imagine losing any of my
That would have been fine.
tips or bits or
But
any of those.
I didn't do it in the end. I got the surgery, so it's fine. And it was back to you, Oona.
So I want to go back to anonymity because I feel like
Yeah.
that's something that's important to all of us.
Yes.
Before NFT NYC 2021 and you're practicing art and stuff, were you anonymous then, or is this something that you said it was born out of that conference? Like, is that something that you switched on then to be like, hey, I want to let my message and my actions and this part of my personality be why people care and not because of my name, my face, or something I've done before?
So I've never been on social media.
Okay.
It's just not really, I've never vibed with it. I've never understood it.
So before Oona, you were never on social media?
No.
Personally?
Yeah, personally,
Okay.
never really attracted to it. I've always been I'm a very outgoing, like loud kind of personality, but never really have
Outside
found
of
that.
Oona, the regular person, you're also outgoing in a lot of ways?
Yeah, guys, like, she is me.
But part of your
yeah.
performance is being Oona. So I'm curious, like the real person, is that a lot of the same sort? Sometimes
There's a
people are
lot
very,
of the
very
same
different.
ethos. There's a lot of the same ethos. Obviously, it's like slightly different because I'm performing actively.
Right.
But to your question about kind of anonymity and why, it's really... I like the principle, right? I like the principle that there are some boundaries that should not be crossed, that you and I can exchange ideas, and you don't need to really know what my face looks like, who I am, where I come from, because that way we're actually aligning on the idea, right? And I think especially as a female artist, if you look throughout the canon of kind of art history, most female artists, that made art about the female body or kind of like beauty or sexuality, they get labeled as narcissistic.
Yeah.
Which I'm a huge narcissist. Kidding. So I wanted to kind of see what it would be like to not show my face and still practice about the body. And I've had some really strange responses to the mask in general. But for me, it's important to maintain that kind of line of, hey, I'm doing an active practice about the female body. So number one, it's going to separate it. And I kind of am a diehard about the tenets of crypto. I really think that they're actually fucking good, even though we're seemingly losing them as time goes by. I do believe in self-definition, self-regulation, and peer-to-peer. And I think that for ideas to be transmitted, you don't need to know, what my upper lip looks like.
Yeah. Or your mustache.
It's interesting when right, or your mustache. So when you show your nudity, you have your mask on, so you want people to focus on, and we'll get to it, like, what you want them to see, right?
Yeah.
So like when Mapplethorpe created his art, and it was very much in your face, the nudity. A lot of people at first were like, God, this is like, again, I wasn't around then, but reading their history, I think the reaction first to his art was, this is disgusting, right? And then over time, people saw the beauty of what he was trying to prove, of, you know, so like the iconic piece of like the African-American man in a beautiful suit and then his dick is just hanging out, right? So there's got that sort of balance of like, you know, hey, this is this beautiful specimen of a human being with this beautiful suit, and he has everything. There's nothing that you can't see almost. But it was that focus that he wanted you to have. So is that a similar sort of idea?
I certainly think so, right? And, you know, to your point, kind of about how nudity is used, right? We have just become so childish. It's actually like, or the opposite, we've completely abandoned our childness, of like a children's approach to the body. There's nothing inherently sinful, shameful, or disgusting about the female form or about a nude body in any way. It's not even inherently erotic at all. We just live in these weird societies that all of a sudden make all these rules around it, and we're not supposed to reveal, or if you do, it's, you know, sex work, or if you do, it's eliciting something. And I like, to your point, that piece, it's saying, hey, this is what's underneath. This is actually what all of the suits, what all of the beauty, what all of the glam and human does, this is what we are. And I like nudity for that. Now, if you ask me about nudity that we see in most of the Web3 space, my God, like claw my eyes out and shoot me
hypersexualized male photographers.
Yeah,
taking
I think
pictures
it's, yeah.
If I see another one of Guido's, like, here's a little, like, they look like
95
prepubescent.
pounds.
95 pounds, prepubescent, no pubic hair. I'm like, Guido, you must have the worst sex of my fucking life.
Well, I without naming names, for me, I think it's not just the male artists. I think some of the female artists as well.
Oh yeah, like
I think that my issue is
I can do a split in the ice.
Is that
wow.
I don't fully think that there's any like message that's being given across sometimes. So it feels like what ends up happening is that some of the artists are really just selling softcore porn to white guys in their basement who are like hoping and wishing one day they're just gonna have sex with that
Dude,
person.
some of these dudes
which by the way I don't think is wrong in some ways. Like I get that because that's part of the art, but it's also like there just should be a little deeper situation going on, and I just don't see that. And like
half of these dudes are married.
I got stories, guys. I got stories. I got stories.
I mean, if you want to share, you can share. Sure, go ahead. I mean,
so
don't have to name.
You don't have
names.
to name names.
You can, but
guys,
you don't have to.
I do think that I might.
I
Listen, you can name
we like
them.
naming names.
So my first kind of like, I got a grant from Playboy for the Art of Gender and Sexuality when they had that like Sevens grant thing.
Oh my God, don't get me started with that.
Womp. Surprise, it ended up being a rug pull. I kind of had the foresight to
be
say,
fair, that wasn't World of Women involved there. Weren't they involved with that drop, World of Women?
I don't think so. It was more like a Sevens Grant Foundation, which has a lot of people that, you know.
Was that the one where like also there was a few artists, like women artists, that they put in there, right?
Yeah, there was like 50 of us that won this grant. That's how I know Sam J. That's how I know Edgar Fabian Frias, like some really beautiful artists. So I was super happy to like receive the grant, to be connected. And they told us that they were going to do all these things, then they didn't. So I kind of had the foresight of like, okay, Playboy's probably going to rug. So shocker. I will make an adjacent series called Oona Eggs. And this is back before Manifold. So this is like raw dogging it on OpenSea, like it's some Oona Eggs. And they were durational artwork that would change every 3 months. And at the end of 9 months, they would hatch. So I make this thing, there are 28 eggs, and I just push it to the Playboy community. Most of them were snatched up within like, a second. The end of the month, I think there was 2 eggs which were unclaimed. So I did an on-chain abortion. I just like burnt them. And so many of the Playboy guys were like, whoa, I don't think she's a model. And so they all blocked me on Twitter.
Oh boy.
And then so like my first collectors all basically blocked me, which I think is funny because at the time the meta was like, collect your collectors. And I was like, I'm collecting something different. Now that's a passive story. A very funny and very saucy and very spicy story is I happened to be in Lisbon. And this is a couple years ago, and this person's no longer in our industry, thank God. But yeah,
Did you kill him?
Kind of. I have a working lunch. I have the red gloves, guys. I have a working lunch, and talking about art, practice, everything as you do. And at the end, she's like, "All right, Oona, I really want to help you. What can you do?" And I was like, "I'm going to be so blunt. I'm looking for collectors that want to support my practice and do not want to fuck me." Right? That can't be more simple than that.
That's the same conversation you had with me.
Yeah, look, I have to have it now with all of them.
Yeah.
And he goes, "But my mind and my heart and my body are throbbing for you. Come with me to Marrakesh tomorrow." And I go, "Great, buy me a first class ticket now." He bought me a first class ticket now. I said, "All right, darling, see you at the airport." The next morning, I sent him a voice note. "I was never going to Marrakesh and you were never going to buy my fucking art." Block, done.
That really happened?
That really happened.
That sounds like an 888 thing.
This man
Probably was 888.
had a charity that was like, "Come artists, drop your art here. We're going to support all of these like indigenous cultures." His name is...
Okay, so you go through these crazy stories.
Don't fuck with me.
Yeah, listen, I understand. I mean, you had this conversation with me, I don't know, a while ago, but I think that I was pretty clear at the beginning that I respected it when you said it to me. I was like, yeah, I mean, I want to buy your art, and we've done a lot of work together.
It's true.
And I've been big support, hopefully more to come, and I've been a big supporter, and also felt that like, it's kind of nutty, right? Because I don't fully understand it because I'm not a woman in this space. But I don't realize till I talk to some of the collectors and artists who are female, and they show me some of their DMs they get. And it's, I think a lot of times people are like, yeah, it's not that bad, or, oh, just block them. Now, I will say, I think there's people who in our community who ask for it and want it because it gives them popularity. But for the most part, there's pretty fucked up people in our community that are sending some horrible things.
Some of the bigger collectors are. I always think back at that fucking Kato dude.
Yeah.
And that group of people.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're like grooming like broke artists.
Like just trying to like, oh, I'll buy something from you, come out. Like that really happens.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, it happens in the art world, to be fair. I don't think it's just in our community.
It's a power thing.
It's a power thing.
It's power dynamic.
But I just think that men don't fully understand how bad it really is.
No, I love when people share their DMs or like bad experiences, because a lot of dudes are just oblivious, especially like those of us married in the Midwest. It's like never crosses our mind that like, oh, that's something you have to deal with.
Yeah.
And then you talk to your friends and you're like, holy shit. Like,
and nobody thinks they're going to get caught.
Yeah,
because
it's
they're
just
like,
funny
oh, I could
too,
just send it. Yeah.
because it's just kind of dumb.
No, it's so stupid.
Like, it's just kind of dumb to begin with. Like, there's so many better conversations to be had, and like part of the like fine line again to like weave that needle is like, guys, like I have so many more interesting thoughts to share than like explaining why it's like weird that a collector wants to sleep with only female artists. It's like,
or like I could show my boobs. That has nothing to do with me wanting to sleep with you.
Yeah.
Right? There's a message in that. But like I know somebody who's not an artist, and she got a message that she sent me where the person was like, I can't wait to smell your feet.
Oh God.
And I'm just like what the fuck? Like
Yeah.
Now I don't know if it's because I'm married with kids and I'm like
not
5'6" and I can't lift like, a basketball because I'm so weak. So like I don't really care about power, or it's just like an innate thing for men to be that dumb sometimes. But it's just shocking to me how there really is, unfortunately, this like sort of like underlying thing that we don't always see that doesn't get talked about. So I do appreciate when you do talk about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to bring it up because I feel like it's easier to call out that behavior when it's brought up. Like if you vaguely talk about it, then people do like what Benny said, oh, it's not that bad or whatever. But when you like explicitly say like this thing happened, or like you share one of these DMs, it's like, no, like this is how fucking stupid it is.
And sometimes I get DMs from female artists, like one particular time I remember this female sent me a picture of a text message She said, is this bad? And I was like, yeah, that's bad. Like, that's not okay. Like you can't, somebody can't say what, I don't want to say what it was, but they can't say that or can't send that. Like that's encroaching on your sort of box of, I don't know, like, level of threshold that is acceptable.
And here's like the funny part. It's like, oh, but let them shoot their shot. No, this is not the context. Like, like if we're at a bar, we're making eye contact, you want to like have a conversation, say hello. I'm willing to see if there's like anything there.
Let me ask you on a date first, maybe.
Yeah, it's like so different than the energy of shoot your shot. And I feel like people forget that we are here because we're building an industry. And as much as it's about art and as much as it's about community and friends, we're building something that's like legitimate and serious and hopefully has a legacy. And what's attracted me to Web3, probably you as well, and crypto, is that it's trying to be different.
Yeah, for sure.
Trying to be different is what's attractive about it, right? So it's like, come here, do it. So yeah,
But on the other side, I've spoken to you, and there's also a part of you that feels like, while that's an issue, you also don't like when community members take it to a level where they're just using it like as excuses to get attention, right? I know that that's something that bothers you as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I guess to be more kind of like specific, because that's very vague,
that's
right?
fine.
So rather than stay in this like vague territory,
I was setting you up for
I think there's really an opportunity to be very clear about when something is inappropriate and take it as a learning thing and really work with that and say, this is what was messed up, this is what's happened to me. But I'm in a position where I'm very confident and very outspoken, and I really believe in my practice so much that I'm not really worried if I piss off one collector, because I'm like, mate, my practice is going to be like 80 years.
Right.
Yeah, you're not worried about that.
I'm all right. I'll be fine. I'll keep going. I haven't stopped this far, which I can't expect others to have that attitude.
Right.
So there does need to be safe spaces where people can talk about things. But like, one thing that pisses me off is if I'm on another fucking panel and they ask me what's it like to be a female artist, I could just like, actually,
it's like they brought you on the panel because you're a female, and then want to like check a box and be like, oh, you got a female artist perspective.
I know. I joke with.
Let's ask our token female what's it like to be a female.
Right. Instead of saying, hey,
it's like
what's it feel like to be an artist?
Fake gun to the head.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. I guess I'm looking forward to the time that like my ideas will speak louder than my vagina.
Right.
Also, like, I always joke with, die with the most likes.
Yes.
I'm like, hey, whenever we're on a panel together, the very first question I'm going to ask you is like, what's it like to be, an artist that has a ding dong?
Yeah.
What's it like to have meat?
yeah. What's it like to be meaty?
I think that
I love him.
I totally agree, and I feel like I want to get to a place like it's a struggle because you and I feel this way. I know Deez does also, that we all feel like there needs to be more of a voice for women in our community, but we also want to be like that fine line, like, but we want to respect them as artists. We don't need to just respect them because they're women. And I struggle to find out how. I mean, I'm seeing it more and more. I think like there's some incredible artists like you and Yatreda and Claire and a bunch of other female artists that are trying to speak their language as an artist, right? But I think that it is a fine line. It's a tough line, right? Because like sometimes I would find that at the beginning, to be very honest, and I think you probably feel this way also, that I would buy just a ton of art from female artists. And then it was like, at one point I was talking to my wife, she's like, that's not solving the problem, right? She's like, you can't just buy all the art from the women because that's not going to help the situation. You need to buy it if it's good art that you enjoy, at the same time helping that situation. And I think that's like a weird kind of thing that I still like try to figure out how to like operate.
I fix it by just including like my wife and I basically co-correct things.
Yeah.
So she's always, most of the time I talk to you about what's going on behind the scenes. So she's not here this week, but most of the time she's at these events, she's meeting people and talking to them too. And it's like, we co-collect from the people we like. Like some of them just happen to be women. It's like you have the Jen Starks, you have the Alien Queens, you have Claire. Like she meets like Meg Bat, like all these different people, vibe checks them with me. And then we collect things we genuinely like from them. And there's never like the first thing is like, oh, well, we need to support women. It's like, well, no, we like these people who some just happen to be women.
Like on that, So right, like the idea of making art about like being a female or not, that's like, it's really about a power dynamic.
Right.
And when in our lives, have whatever gender you are, whatever race you are, everyone experiences different power dynamics and different power imbalances. So it's not like just because it's a female artist, like you as men won't have a relationship to it inherently. Of course you will. Like most of my ideas are about kind of domesticity and what's it like to have a domestic life and where does power come in domestic life and what's body commodification. Men struggle with body image all the time. The fact that it's been kind of like sidelined as this like female issue is like, that's actually very inaccurate. I have a lot of men who talk to me about my performances, especially around like body commodification. And they're like, yeah, I've always felt like I was too short, or I've always felt like I should, get like, calf implants or like all these different things. Like
I should get a calf implant. So it would look so good with calf implants.
Maybe.
Nah.
But it's different,
No, yeah. I agree. I think like, men are very quiet about their emotions, how they feel about themselves, about especially depression. And I was just reading an article that I think 3 to 4 times the suicide rate in the world is male dominated than female. And I think that there's something about the way, females operate in having maybe a little bit more like an expression of emotion in a way, not just their speech, but in their bodies, right? And I think like, the same type of thing. So like when I pick art, I try Amira, who is the smartest person out of the two of us. She has a master's in art history, so I'm always asking her those questions. But I remember like one of her two favorite things that she did in this space, like, almost actually 3 favorite things that she's done in this space so far is all female related, but not because they're females, because they're a great artist. She loved your breast implants thing. She loved the operator when we got to do the dance together with them, and she loved the coffee ceremony with the Atreda. But like had nothing to do with the 3 of them being women. It is that she's like, I love this experience.
It's crazy. Women have like ideas.
And
Right.
the experiences are harder to convey on like Twitter.
Yes.
Totally.
You have to be there in person, sharing space with them to really feel the experience. It's
Yes.
like, you don't get the same off like a 30-second Twitter clip of the thing happening. It's like you have to physically be in the room around the energy to actually
Like when we went to Toledo together,
Yeah.
right? Like it was such an amazing experience being there with Yatreda.
my car almost died, and I was like casually 10 minutes late. Drive a fucking electric car, and my battery's on like 2%, and I'm like, my car's gonna die before I even make it to this damn thing.
But you made it.
But I made it.
But
Scary.
that was an experience doing that there with her in this institution. I think this year they're gonna have a great one. I don't know if it's announced, but by the time we do this, they have Emily G this year.
Cool.
So like I'm excited to see what she does. But again, it's that experience of being.
We can get
there.
Una to come to Toledo.
Okay.
But play Miss Ohio on the
We all
road
have
trip.
to go.
Oh, me and my,
I gotta tell
wanna
you,
do life, but
Toledo.
not right now.
I was actually shocked how nice it was there.
I've
loved
lived
it.
in Ohio my
Yeah.
whole life, and I've never had a reason to go to Toledo. And now I'm like, yeah,
It's a great space. You should definitely
Next
come.
destination, Toledo.
You will love it. So
Just speaking from the specific art museum, not speaking the greater city of Toledo or anything.
they got a great shitty casino there. I'm just throwing that out there. It was the shit. Sometimes you go to casinos. There's like really nice casinos,
Great shitty
and then there's
casino.
really shitty casinos. But the best casinos are always really good shitty casinos.
I know what you
You know
mean.
what I'm saying?
I know what you mean.
It's like it's so bad, but it's so good.
Yeah, it's
like
a
it can
little
be so
glossy.
bad. You're like, oh, I can't even walk in there. But sometimes they're so bad, and but you're like, this place is amazing.
It doesn't smell like
It doesn't-
75-year-old
it doesn't.
people
It
smoking
doesn't.
stale
It look how
cigarettes.
Only a little.
exactly.
Just a little bit.
Only a little.
A
Like
little.
in the carpet. Like you
Yeah.
have to really get down on your hands.
Yeah,
and
Correct.
yeah.
It almost, how about this? It looks like it's supposed to smell, so it doesn't. So therefore, you're like, it doesn't smell, but it looks like it should smell. So your brain is like, well, this is a really shitty casino. And then they have like a sushi place, and you're like, well, this sushi is gonna be terrible. The sushi isn't so bad,
In
but
Ohio.
it's just good enough that it's not good. that you're just like, hey, and then everything about that casino. So
if you're
Toledo,
not sold on Toledo by this, I don't know what's going to sell you.
I'm gonna go for the sushi.
Yeah. So you would laugh. They actually have like one of the best sushi restaurants like in 50 states over there. Not in the casino though, just for the record.
Casino has.
The casino doesn't have it. Casino has like the knockoff version of that. But anyways, Toledo, you should come. But I guess the point is my wife, who loves art, and she's the one who really got me to love art. Her experiences with art are always, she's the one who, she actually studied. You gotta, when you come out hopefully soon, you'll sit with her. Her master's was in nudity, art and nudity in a lot of ways. She studied like this one time. I'm gonna get the name wrong because I'm so bad with names. This photographer who studied pictures of women who were quote unquote, I guess, like at the time, prostitutes at circuses, like at the turn of the century. And she got me
niche.
Yeah, like totally like got me into this like rabbit hole of this stuff, like when I was starting to like really like art. So she has like her whole thought on it. Like her favorite artist did those things with the dolls, and like in sexual ways, but they were just dolls. So you should have a great conversation with her.
Yeah, I like Amira. She's great.
What
it like?
What I kind of want to go back to like your upbringing and like before Oona, like studying art history and stuff. Did you grow up around a love of art, or how did you find yourself falling into the art rabbit hole? Because you said you're around your passionate mom. Was she passionate about art? Was she passionate about other things?
No, I'm definitely not passionate about art, but it's quite funny. My parents actually met on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange.
Oh.
Yeah, so
traders?
Traders, tried and true. So
like in Trading Places?
I've come full circle.
Wow.
So yeah, no, I didn't necessarily grow up around a love of art, and like even my appreciation for art and like why I love art is that it's a translation, right? It's a different language. You're just using a different medium to translate an idea. And that has always been exciting to me. Like, I love languages. I've always been really interested in other people and in communication and like how you share and transact information. And so for me, art was just kind of another language that I could learn. And before Oona was born, I did my master's. I got like from CSM, and it was all in feminism and surveillance. So how the surveillance state kind of looks at people's bodies and how CCTV kind of impacts how women see themselves. So always the same kind of interest in topics, but I think this it's like, I've been painting since I was 5 years old. I always knew that I wanted to be an artist. Like, no bullshit. At one point I was like a sparkling water saleswoman. I've tried everything under the sun and realized the only kind of itch that I need to scratch is like, how do I actually communicate what's in here in a meaningful way that another human being who I've never met before can take this from a performance, from a 60-second interaction with me, and fundamentally change how they see the world. That to me is fucking potent, and that is like, that's happened to me twice, and so I'm like, okay, I think I can die happy.
I was so happy to meet your parents when they flew in from Manchester.
Yeah. London, thank you.
London, sorry. And but they were like the sweetest couple.
Yeah, that's sweet.
Like, and so I love that you take that sort of that when they as traders. There's an intensity there, right? Like Trading Places is like one of my favorite movies. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I think you did. And watching these old videos of the people on the stock exchange floor, and what's strange now is because you go to stock exchange floor now, there's nobody there.
It's
empty, right? Because everybody's on computers.
Completely.
And that intensity of trading, ups and downs. I mean, now that it's not on the floor, but it's literally happening in crypto. Today, yesterday, I mean, we just witnessed the rise and fall of Bitcoin by $10,000 twice. Now it just went back up again.
Yeah.
And it's probably gonna go down tomorrow. And it's kind of wild to like have that like intense emotion of like fucking craziness. So like I wonder like where that gets funneled into art, right?
Well, most of my art is also about like art market and the market being the art, right? So I'm working on this series called Treachery of Tickers. Well, that's all about tickers. It's all about symbols. So having the art kind of be the market for me was like very fluid in the back of my head. And I grew up in a context where you always talked about kind of like financial markets as kind of a meta-analysis of what's happening culturally. Right now, I think it's so interesting that, eggs, there's no eggs in Whole Foods in New York City. Egg prices are skyrocketing. Now, that's a very simple line. That's a fact that we can all go out and see. What's happening to women's fertility? Eggs being an extension of that. Very good question. I did this performance called Milking the Artist in Art Basel, Miami, 2 years ago, completely guerrilla, completely uninvited, where I auctioned off a glass of my breast milk with Laurie Baldwin. And at that time, there was a breast milk shortage in the United States. So the price of formula was skyrocketing. So there's always been a relationship in my work between kind of like, what's the meat of what I'm saying and what are the markets saying? Because unfortunately, we live in a world which is dominated by markets and symbols. Symbols rule the world.
You have no problem, and we talked to a lot of people that we have on the show about this, but you're another one of these incredible artists, creators that doesn't mind taking chances, right? I feel like you have lots of projects. You don't apologize for it. You're just like, I'm going to try this today. I'm going to try that tomorrow. But you put a lot of thought into it. So, I think we've talked about this. Like, you don't consider things failures. You're like, I'm trying something new. And like, I know you tried like a token on Valentine's Day that I thought was fun. And there's other things that I've experienced buying your art that I think that you go through these sort of like incredible, we had Renatic on, we have a lot of artists.
Yeah.
You're one of the same type of like, hey, just keep going, keep trying, keep going. So like
fuck around and find out.
Fuck around, found out,
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Massively. It's in this book called Art of War, or The War of Art, one of those things, where they took a class and they broke the class into two. It's a pottery class. And one of them says, okay, you have to make one piece at the end and you're going to be judged on one piece.
Yeah.
And they say to you, okay, if you make 80 to 90 pieces, you're going to get an A. You're going to get top mark. If you make, 60 to 70 pieces, you're going to get a mid mark, right? Who do you think performed actually better? Of course, the people that had to make more. You have to be more prolific. You have to be iterative. And the one thing that I hate to see, and it's such a shame that kind of like our little niche industry does it, is that if artists think that if it doesn't sell out in a second, then they can't do it. And then that hinders them to actually take the risk, because guess what? A lot of art doesn't really need a market, but it still needs to be made. So I'm the more prolific type, and I just kind of keep hitting the hammer. Also, like, my brain won't shut up. So I kind of just have to obey.
You have to do it.
I have to obey.
No, I feel it. That's with Stephen Pressfield's book.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a great
Thank
book.
you.
Someone recommended me that in 2021, and I read it back then. And
Delicious.
a lot of it is just like forcing yourself to do things that you might not want to do, but you're only going to get better by putting in the reps. You got to keep creating.
Yeah,
you got to
so
push yourself. I feel like that's a theme with a lot of the people we talk to. Like Dai, you're talking about Dai earlier.
Yeah.
Dai is somebody who every day, even if he doesn't fucking mint it, he created it.
Completely. I also personally feel like constipated if I don't have like a creative kind of thing.
that.
It's like I just
It's a
actually
good word.
need to, yeah.
It is.
You feel like constipated and you're like, a little bit lethargic, and then make something and it doesn't really matter. I also think that artists shouldn't really be the ones, nor should a market, who's judging whether a work is like good or bad. A work can be necessary and unfinished. It can be in progress. So this idea that things need to be like kind of like polished or finished
Well, the
before you share
market
them
is
like,
fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like the market is not always right. Just because
yeah.
the price of something or what the market says something is worth is not actually what it's worth. It's like, I look at, I mean, it's the stupidest example, but like fucking punks were basically free for years. Nobody cared. And then people came along and cared. And it's like, you can put something out as an artist and nobody might care for a year or two about it. And then somewhere down the line, someone's like, wait, like that thing that was done 4 years ago at this time in history was like actually really impactful. And then it takes like, 2 or 3 mimetic mind viruses to pick up. And then everybody's like, oh my God, that's fucking historical. And it's like, well, no one thought it was historical for 3 years or 4 years or 5 years or 10 years.
Right.
And then in hindsight, it ends up being obvious. It's like, oh, it was. So you have to put it out. It's like, you can't
But that's also where like this is the tension of kind of like Web3, right? It like promises that you can actually, you don't, as an artist, you can find those people and you don't have to wait for that, like, you know, to be dead to have that kind of moment. And I think that, I realized really quickly that what makes people pay attention to art is usually money. So, you know, that performance milking the artist that I talked about, obviously it was like a crowd of 400 people. And these random guys started shouting, you know, 30K, 70K, 200K. And at 200K, I can see security is like pummeling towards us. And I was like, okay, end the performance.
How much did you end up selling it?
None, guys. It was a random dude who had just like come out, shouted it.
Got it.
But I went to like the Miami Herald, People Magazine, TMZ, all these places. And I was like, oh, I just did this amazing performance. And they were like, oh, where's the receipt? Who paid? And I was like, oh, just give me 1 second. Just 1 second. Excuse me. I know this thing called blockchain. And so Oona bought the wallet address now that you're paying attention. And now that you're paying attention, paid 50 ether for the glass of breast milk. And so then I went back to all these major media publications and I was like, look, here's the proof. Someone bought it on chain. This is their wallet address. So of course, if you were in on like the crypto side, you understood that was a performative wallet wash.
Yeah.
But if you weren't,
you didn't know. And
you just thought that someone actually paid 50 ether for it.
Yes.
And I think that that's funny, right? Because we're here because we think that we can create new metrics of value, yet we're relying on a number to determine what's valuable.
Yeah, and I think that sometimes it makes sense to have value for art. And sometimes it just doesn't. I think that we just got obsessed with numbers. And I think there's some large sales that you're like, great, okay, listen, that makes sense. Or maybe it's too high and still I get where the numbers come from. And then there's times where I think we just like I look at art blocks now. And everybody's like so angry. So many people like prices of all the stuff I bought was down. And I'm like, look, I get it. But you paid those prices, right? Like
Sure.
I understand it was an investment.
And you're mad about it because you bought it to speculate on it.
Correct.
Not because you bought it to really sit and enjoy it. You were minting shit out at a Dutch auction price of 4 ETH.
Yeah.
And you were mad that you lost money. It's like, well, we were buying squiggles for $30.
Right.
And like, we didn't care that.
Nobody cared when people were buying squirrels for $30, and they did care. And then I think that's it. I have no issue with pieces selling for higher prices, and I have no problem with pieces selling for lower prices. I think same thing with scarcity. Some artists need to be scarce. Some artists don't need to be scarce.
I just have a problem with the speculation and the time frames. It's like the people buying it at those expensive prices are speculating on like a 1 week or 2 week or 1 day or 4 hour time horizon.
Yeah,
it's
which is
like,
just
well,
not-
why are you buying art? Just buy fucking Greed 3. Dave Portnoy just dropped it. Just go buy that. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Why
Well,
Greed 79.
that's the beauty of meme coins. It's like, okay, if you really want something, go buy. Like, I actually think that there's an argument to be made that meme coins are just art NFTs just without the art, you know, like in a way, you know.
Here's my hot take on them.
Like, yeah.
Like, I think they're actually very appropriate for performance-based works.
For sure.
They are attention-based. They're kind of, you know, how do you galvanize and how do you monetize that people were thinking about something? It's kind of a perfect way. They're ephemeral. They go away in like 5 minutes. Usually performances end in like, you know, a day.
Yes.
So, you know,
I
it's
agree.
kind of fitting.
The 2-minute life cycle.
I think meme coins will have a place in some, you know, artistic form in the future. And I think they are still a little bit. Some of them, you know, I see some great stuff being built.
Stay tuned, Oona 2025.
Oh, here we go.
Ticker Oona.
Alpha.
Oh, I've got some wild performances.
I'm gonna snipe the Oona token now. But you did a token already, right?
I did a token. That was so much fun, but that was more like kind of a gesture. So on Valentine's Day, I'm going to just set the stage. It's Paris. It's cold, but beautiful, sunny outside. And I'm invited to the most gorgeous crypto punks brunch. I love all the punks brunches. I think the punks are so much fun.
Shout out to Stone, who does a great job with it.
Nat, we love you. Like,
Nat's
incredible.
great. Yep.
Like, well done. And it's in this park. And it's this gorgeous building that's like these floor to ceiling windows. And there's a large buffet just like this that's looking outside. And all of these like men, because it's mostly men, there's nothing wrong with that. And mostly really wealthy men, right? So basically like the wealthier men in crypto tend to have a punk. They're all there serving themselves this little brunch. And it's Valentine's Day. So I had a whole bouquet of roses for myself. And as they're all getting their breakfast, I just flash them all gloriously. And then I dropped a ticket, said, you're going to buy me roses, walked straight into the party. And then I was like, hey, I launched a meme coin, and I would make them go look at the tweet. And they were like, oh, you launched a meme coin. And I was like, yeah, buy me roses. I'm going to dump on you by midnight. And so, right, it's a funny gesture in financial domination. It's jovial, it's playful, it's much more about the performance. And like, for everyone wondering, I think I made like 0.1 ETH.
Nice.
All right.
It wasn't an
did you
exercise.
dump at midnight?
Yeah, I dumped at midnight.
I mean,
I actually think that I forgot, and I was out at a bar, and I was like, "Oh my god,
shit.
wait! I think I need to dump."
You did tell everybody at the punks brunch that you were very explicit that I will be dumping these coins.
Oh, but that's like the transparent like exercise.
The
of it,
roses are going to
right?
die.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I
Roses
think that
don't
there's
last
nothing
that
wrong
long.
with that, right? And the level of, here's an interesting one. I think that transparency is very important to me, and probably more important to me because I have a mask on. So when I say something, I mean it. When I do it, I'm going to, like, if I say it, I'm going to do it, right?
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
have some higher thresholds of like reputation that get associated because I'm very, and like, I want to be a person who operates with integrity in this industry. I think I can be anonymous. I think I can do weird fin-doming performances, but be very clear about them.
No, I think that your transparency as an anonymous individual is more important because your whole brand or whatever is based on your reputation, not your face or your doxability. Like I feel the same way. It's like when I say I'm going to do something, I do it because all I have at the end of the day is my word. It's like I don't have a face with a fake smile and an AI photo slop, rendition on my face.
And
It's
I think sometimes people like don't want to hear that. Like I'm not going to say who, but somebody said to me, somebody was saying that I was too negative, not constructive enough. I was like, well, hold on a second. I'm going to be very honest because that's who I am. I want to be honest. But my negativity is constructive in a way because I'm not like being negative. I'm trying to explain to you that you could have done something better. And that's just who I am. I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm very honest with you all the time about things.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, I just don't think this makes sense or it doesn't work. Now that's just my opinion. That doesn't mean that I'm right or wrong. But like, I think our community is sometimes too wound up with like, feelings of like being hurt rather than being like, hey, let's have some honest conversations about things. And it's frustrating,
You're honest too because you care. And number two, when you're honest with people for a long amount of time, it builds up this more trust where if I'm saying something honestly to you, I'm not doing it to try to hurt your feelings. I'm doing it to try to make your idea better or whatever you're working on better.
Yeah.
And over time, you kind of build relationships up with the right people in that manner where they come to you because they know that you'll be honest. And even if it hurts to say in the moment, like, it's not like they're ever trying to like tear you down. It's like, well, we can tear an idea down and rebuild it stronger. And that I'm separating like an idea from a person's identity.
Yeah, agreed.
I mean, I always think it's funny, like when people take themselves so seriously. If you're taking yourself so seriously that you can't handle someone else's opinion, like what? Like, you're entitled to your opinion. You're welcome to have it. That's ultimately yours.
Right.
It's not mine. I don't need to take it on as mine. Who does a really good job of this is, and I have like fun with him on Twitter, and sometimes I'll DM him to be like, hey, just making sure like I have that much respect.
Let me guess
for you.
who.
Like, yeah.
787.
No, that guy.
I'm just
Next.
kidding. I just saw your tweets with him today. Go on.
Phantom Scribbler.
Phantom was best.
He takes the piss out of himself.
We
and,
just said this
like,
last episode.
I can poke fun at him.
Oh, he fuds his own
but
bags.
When I poke at the other one, those panties get right and then.
No, I think you both do it to each other, not realizing that you're both feeling that way. But to be fair, I think you actually...
We got to put them on the same couch.
Yeah, like I think you and 787 actually we get along very well.
Yeah, we do. We hung out in Marfa.
Yeah, you guys are very funny together online. I actually find your banter on Twitter great. But I do think Phantom Scribbler is a perfect example of that. Like, look, he's going to be brutally honest of his own opinions and to even fud his own bags. And I think that like I always said, it's like I'm not right. I'm probably right maybe 2% of the time. But if you're gonna ask me my opinion, I'm gonna tell you. Now, I just think in this community, having that breath of fresh air like Phantom, in which if we had more of that, I think we would have less sort of problems with almost sales and conversations, and we could just be a little bit more open about things.
Bat Soup is kind of like that too.
Bat's definitely there's a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Bat's actually he's not afraid to.
It's mostly people who are anonymous.
Yes.
Who are most honest like that. Like Scribbler doesn't show his face. I mean, he goes to events, like met him in person, hung out with him, but like he's not. His PFP is not his face. Bats is never showing his face on Twitter. Yeah. But like, they're all the most honest people I know are mostly anonymous.
Yeah.
It's outside of Benny.
I mean, I think what I love about your art sometimes, it's so honest, right? Like, I think there's so much honesty in letting people touch your fake implants, right? I mean, there's something so personal about that. So there's something so honest and truthful. It's like, hey, I want you to hold what was inside me. It's like, whoa, hold on a second. Some people get kind of freaked out about it. And I'm always like, nah, you got to look a little deeper. Like she's not just walking around implants just to be like, oh, I got implants. Like there's a thought process to this.
I mean, just on that, right? So like layers of honesty. When I had my implants in, people look at you like, if you tell them that you have breast implants, they look at you like you're dumb or vain or all these things. So I would actually lie to people, and it's none of your business what's in my breast. So if you ask, I'm just going to say, yeah, mama made me perfect.
Yeah. Right.
Like none of your business. Whereas now I do this performance, to Benny's point, where kind of like I got my breast implants removed for other reasons. I let people come touch them one by one. And, in Paris, I did it. In New York, I did it. In LA, I did it. In London, I did it. And you get really honest, very visceral reactions from people about it. And that's, again, when I talk about like the potency of art, it's like, that's potent when you're getting someone's reaction, and then when you're actually giving them an opportunity to change their opinion. I don't think any of our opinions are truly changing fundamentally on Twitter. Maybe they are, but like,
rarely.
This is much more of like, hey,
you're forcing them to have that conversation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
What have been some of the more unexpected reactions that you've gotten?
I mean, there's like so many. I think two kind of come to mind right now. One is like a meta observation is I kind of expected like, okay, dudes will interact in, some will be creepy, some will be shy.
Some will put it on their head and bounce it.
Yeah. And some will do like a comparison. So kind of like, I had a smattering of men, and there's one that I'll talk about after this. But what was most surprising was I actually had so many, and I've categorized them as invasive interactions from women. Mm-hmm. So how the format works is I'm inside, I'm stood in the same posture, I don't speak, I don't really react, and I have the implants in my hands. People come in one by one. Someone on the outside says, you can't touch her mask, you have 60 seconds, you can touch her breasts, and you can touch the implants. And I hear this woman go, can I lick? I was like, what the fuck do you want to do? And the guy's like, touch. And so she comes in and she proceeds to flick my nipples for 60 seconds. And I just couldn't understand the reaction. Like, I was like, I don't understand what you're getting out of this. Did you move
or you just
left it? No, just complete bare ass. Like, boom, you're not going to get anything out of me. This is very strange. Also, I should preface that I'm documenting all of this, right? So the point is that I have this data set. Similar in Los Angeles, this woman comes in and she takes my implants and she starts laughing hysterically, juggling them. Then she starts slapping them. Then she starts slapping my boobs. Then she starts trying to juggle my boobs. And then she writes to me even still today, apologizing for the way that she treated me.
Was she drunk? Or like...
No, not even. It was just like some of the nudity made her uncomfortable. It was
like a reaction that she had.
Like she was so uncomfortable that she like just
didn't know what to do.
And then another woman, basically, we're like, so I have these, I wear leggings, and to your point earlier, it's like I'm concentrating like, hey, this is about breasts. This isn't about, my whole body. And I had one woman come in and she started stroking my legs like very sexually. And I was like, you're like missing the point here, babe. And I went through the data and I looked back. All of those women, what they had in common is that they looked in the camera before they looked at me. So isn't that quite interesting that it's like actually their primary audience or the person that they were like performing or acting for
other people.
Was for other people and not for me. And that was really unexpected.
Was I the only person to bounce it on my head?
No.
Was he?
Thought I was I took a great picture of us together though with that.
That is a good one. So, and then the most fascinating one that I had though was this man who I had never met. And I can tell this story one of two ways. It's like, yeah, this guy came in 60 seconds, got fully naked, and then left. Right? You think that would be terrible? He's one of my favorite human beings now. We had the best interaction. So what had happened is he'd come the day before. He'd seen this massive queue in Paris, right? It was like, I was meant to do it for 1 hour. I did it basically for 5.5 hours.
Wow.
And he saw this massive queue on day one. And he was like, oh no, I can't do that. I'm too afraid. Participated in all these conversations of, would you do it? What would you do? Da, 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 da. And then he's like, he tells me this later. He's like, I phoned my wife that night. We talked about it for like half an hour. I told her I was like way too afraid. And she's like, no, you should do something. And then he got so emboldened. He was like, what can I do that will level the playing field between me and you? And as a man, just to take my top off, that really wouldn't do it. You know, so he felt he needed to get completely naked. And then he got so nervous. But for me, that was so cool. You thought about my art. You talked about it with someone else. You engaged in the performance.
Talked about it with your wife.
Yeah, you engaged in the performance. You did the thing, like a complete, like the energetics of that.
What did you guys talk
were
about
beautiful.
when he did get naked? Did you talk? Or you didn't talk.
No, we didn't talk.
So he just sat there and stared at you.
So it's standing. So he took the implants and he was like, "Do whatever you want to me," and I was like, "Well, I'm not going to do anything to you, mate." Like, so he was shaking at that point. He was very nervous, and so I just remember I put my hands on his shoulder and I just made eye contact with him, and I was just like, and we just breathed for 60 seconds, you know, a very normal interaction. Like part of what's happening in our society.
It's like the complete. I don't know if it's. Can I just say something?
Yeah, go.
It's like the complete opposite of going downstairs into a strip club.
Yeah.
Right? And you get the private room.
Very different.
Very different. Like, but there's that similar line in a way. Like, you know, you go in a dark room, it's just the two of you. Like, it's kind of like in like that, you know, moment of like just there's two people in there. And it's kind of fascinating to see that like dichotomy of it, like in a way.
But this is where I think that like society's losing the plot, right?
Yeah.
Because I should preface, like the setting is hyper clinical.
Yeah.
There's like a very clinical light above me. Do it at 1 p.m. So it's well before like anyone starts to drink, hopefully, you know, like in the sober hours. Like we should hope. But I think that we're losing this like thing about, you know, the privacy and intimacy and how to handle that. So like I had a bunch of men who would come in and then would just fucking freeze up, and it's like, you are not inherently guilty. You are not inherently doing anything wrong by being in the presence of a topless woman. You're just not. And for a lot of men, it was confronting that feeling. And then some of them were like, oh my God, I was so nervous to touch you. And I was like, the performance is called Look, Touch, Own.
Right.
Like, you're allowed to touch. You signed paperwork saying that you understand that you can touch, you know? So there's part of that which I was interested in with like mostly men being like, hey, I want to reestablish that just because you're a man doesn't mean you're inherently guilty. And I think that men are really going through this weird kind of like guilt thing. And it was abundantly clear, right? So, sorry, I'm going on a monologue, but I have like one more thought.
No, keep going. Love it.
That, you know, I rewatched some of the Paris footage. And I obviously had my own experience of it being, you know, in the body. But I was like, I'm going to watch it with a couple other artists, male and female, from different parts of the world. So I had a little viewing party with my strange loves. I love you, strange lovies. You know a few of them. And what was funny is like we track the data of every single person, right? So man comes in, two people back to back. Man comes in, touches the implants, touches the breast, touches the implants. Everyone watches it and is like, yeah, he's doing the performance. Good for him. Like, sound guy. That's like really, yeah, just all right. Second man comes in, touches the implants, touches my boobs, touches the implants, touches my boobs. Same exact actions if we're tracking it by like the analytical metrics. But everyone watches it and you're like, oh my God, that's so fucking creepy. This guy's being a creep. Make it stop. And so it pointed out to me.
What was the difference between the two?
Just energetically, you can kind of tell that one was trying to be...
You could see it in his eyes.
Yeah, like invasive and kind of extractive. And the other was just genuinely curious. And that's, again, like if I really want to push into like another layer of Look, Touch, Own is about consent laws. And, you know, it's very different energetics. Like someone can do the same thing. You know, like we can be walking and you can touch my bum because your hand's there and it's nothing. You didn't mean it. Who cares? Or like, oh no, I know. And it's actually a collective knowledge that we can feel intuitively and in our bodies when someone is trying to be extracted
It's
from
so
us.
interesting because like I took my kids to the city once and we went to an art museum and there's plenty of nudity there and we're not like we don't hide our kids' eyes. It's part of the art. And then we happened to be walking past a some kind of what do you call it, like a rally, and there was like these people who decided that they needed to be naked, and that I was like, okay, hold on a second, right? I was like, but like, you know, and I was talking to my wife about it. Like, there was clearly a difference in those two things. One was just like unnecessary, and it's not the nudity, right? Like, it's more of like, I guess maybe the purpose of it in some ways. And I think there's some kind of interesting, like, because like nudity in art has been around since the start, right? I mean, that's part of, you know, talking about the body and the nature of it. So I think we shy away from it because I hear what you're saying, because it's like the moral code of things. So sometimes it's like put in your face in a way too much, where it's like, okay, this is uncomfortable, and times where we now shy away from that too much because it's just we should be open to what it is.
Guys, like, you probably own a dick butt.
A couple.
Yeah. Like,
I also own 85 tit badges.
oh, wow. You know, someone sent those to me the other day. I was like, you know what?
I think like
I will send you a tit badge. I've
I have like
What's an
20
honor?
something left. I
What's
think.
an honor?
I've been giving them out really slowly.
Oh, I might take a few actually.
I had
There's
like
looking for
tit
I had
good-
150.
Do you have a rainbow one still?
Probably.
I want a
I
rainbow
kept all
one.
the nice ones, but yeah, I will send you a tit badge because they're just as preposterous, and we had a good time minting them. Like,
That was a great time.
I remember when they
Yeah.
came out.
Yeah.
I think our group chat probably minted 1,000.
Yeah,
or 4,000 of
it was very exciting time.
because they made them in a way, obviously, to complement dick butts, so that like the amount of dick butts and tit badges equaled, I think, 10,000.
Yeah.
So there's, I think, a little less of the tit badges. But anyway,
Well, I mean, I love dick butts, but honestly, my favorite, and I know I say this and people always get like, woof. I happen to love people's dick butt. I think it's gross. It's in your face, and it's like, that's too far.
he
like,
loves
wait,
all
that
of people's dicks.
I do like
this-
people's
he
dicks,
might
sorry.
be the biggest collector of
yeah.
people's dicks.
I like
in the
people's dicks
planet.
personally because I think it's the antithesis of like, whoa, that's not okay because that's just a little too far. Like, why is it too far? But that is something
People
else.
hate his dicks on Twitter. Like,
Sorry, for being like a super hetero man from
Yeah.
the Midwest, and you want to make these big ass cocks. It's like, come on, man.
Why?
It's not that there's nothing wrong with it, and which, yeah, to
I
like,
think
to
it's
like your
great.
point, it's like, why? Well, it's like, try taking one.
Because what?
I said something very foul.
Oh.
I'm like, that
No,
would be for the
but-
quick-witted
but
listeners and nothing
people's
else.
wife is like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
But it's
There's that great scene in the movie. What movie was it where he keeps drawing dicks? His whole like when he-
Superbad.
Superbad. That's one of my favorite scenes.
Okay,
I feel
so
like
my take on the dicks is that there's an energy in which, you know, so I said this line in Paris, but it's like the present is determined by the future, right? So like if crypto ends up net positive, then dick butt, theoretically, and like tit badge, it could be like the, you know, Duchamp's urinal. It could be that like funny on the nose kind of absurdist energy. But if crypto ends up net negative in like 5 years, or it basically carries on the way that it's going right now, then these are surefire signs of, wow, we had this technology that had unparalleled potential, and we gave it to a culture that really only valued its dick, like phallic objects, you know, penile things. It's like, that would
I mean,
be
just
such
look
a
at
loss.
a squiggle. What's a squiggle?
so. How do we go in the right direction so that
I haven't even
it,
thought of that.
I just ruined squiggles.
why?
We love you, Snow Bro.
How do we go in the right direction so that dick butts end up being more like Duchamp's rather than just nonsense?
I think you probably have to buy a lot of Oona. No, I don't really have an answer to that, but I think, you know, if one person ever claims to have an answer to that, that's probably wrong as well.
Yes.
It's really a collective solution that's needed. And one thing that I find myself, you know, trying really hard to do is to create space for new artists as well in my repertoire. I think that we've all gotten to a point where we feel like we kind of know everyone. And, you know, in the very beginning, what would give me life is that basically every day on Twitter, I was finding, oh my God, this is this artist. Oh my God, let me go look up what they're doing and who they are and what they're working on. You know, like one of my favorite finds was like Lorna Mills, We get along so well. Her work is incredible. It's very internet. Nicholas Sassoon, you know, finding that type of work that I had never had previous exposure to is so unbelievably wonderful. And that's why we're here. So I guess, yeah, I would like to maintain that in myself, that kind of curiosity of other and the wholehearted, like, goodness, right? It's a goodness belief.
Yes.
So in your prediction, do you think that we get to a point where dick butts are more like a Duchamp, or do you think that I mean, I don't know if I agree with you that we're headed in the wrong direction. I think there's a mix here, but like, do you think we still have a chance?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm really not sure. Like, obviously, long term, I think that, you know, crypto is going to be net positive. I believe in the tech and I believe in the ethos. But it has been quite sad to see that, you know, this idea of self-sovereignty and self-regulation has kind of become co-opted and really just disregarded. And it's become more an excuse for, like, flagrant misbehavior.
Yeah, like blatant grifting and crime.
Yeah.
Actually.
But do you think that we have to go through that just to build the right way in some ways? Like, the way I see it, because I've been in crypto forever, is that every cycle of something new that we built had its sort of grifters, blatant robbing, whatever you want to call it, to get to a point where it's like, oh, okay, now this tech makes sense.
But like, we'd like peak, like, this year has been like peak nihilism. Like, the previous cycles, there was always this idea. It's like, well, there's grifters here doing shitty stuff, but like, we're optimistic about the future and what is being built. This cycle, it's like, nothing fucking matters. The only thing that matters is the price. If the price doesn't go up, go to fucking hell. I hate you. And there's no like that innocence and optimism that was there in the last cycles doesn't feel like it's there.
I want to make a counter argument.
And I don't know if it's because I've just been here for too long.
No. So I how about this? I will say this. I don't disagree. What I think, though, the truth is that was always the truth. I think
we're fucking humans.
I think we pretended that it wasn't the reality of what was going on. So to me, I actually see us actually growing in the right direction because we finally have shed our skin and just been like, all right, we're not going to fucking pretend anymore, right? Not us, meaning they're parts of the community. They're just like fully out there saying, we are scamming. Instead of being like, hey, we have white paper. Hey, we have naked. DeFi. Hey, we have a JPEG. Like, instead of doing all those things where we are actually building some incredible things, at least the honesty is out there. So I wonder if once we shed that skin, we get to a point where it's like, okay, we've kind of passed that moment. So we have all these great things that we built. So can we actually go forward? That's the way I see it a little bit differently.
It doesn't feel like it can get much worse than it's been the last like 3 to 6 months in terms of just outright blatant, like, I'm going to grift the shit out of you and dump on your head, but not transparently. Like,
no, the last 3
months, the last 3 months alone, you know, the David Portnoy stuff, it's like, wow, that's tragic. And kind of, there's something funny here where it's like, it's really, it trends toward victim blaming, right? Like, all of the narrative trends towards victim blaming, and it becomes very black or white. Like, you shouldn't have done that. But at the same time, if you're offering, right, the majority of people who buy these meme coins, they're young men who are on average white, aged between like 19 and 35.
I mean, that's all crypto basically.
Yeah, but look, from another way, and the more compassionate way that I see it is like, we grew up in a culture, in Western culture, where men are due to provide. If you're going to tell them that, you know, the economy is fucked, that they're not going to get a house, that they're not going to get all these things, and then you offer them this random esoteric internet thing, what you need to do is like click around and know the right people to really be able to like provide and have a life. I understand why they're making the plays. I understand why people are taking those risks. I don't think it's appropriate to label them as like stupid, you know, the ones that are like trying, because they're there, and I can have compassion for the fact that, everyone's trying to fucking make it. That's why I bought Trump coin at 99 cents.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think that, you know, to label people because they've done certain things in the space or bought some meme coin or did what they did, I think it's unfair, and also it's kind of counterproductive to like building. You know, I keep saying this, like, I hope that people make meme coin money and buy art. And I had some artists like, I'm never going to take their money.
Yeah, you are.
I'm like, that's bullshit.
You took it last cycle.
You took
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
You're just pretending.
Sold tit badges and bought art. You were
But
really
exactly.
happy to get
Like you're
tit badge money.
it's just nonsense, right? And I guess that's why I wrote that tweet about politics. I'm like, listen, you could yell and scream all you want, but and be upset about certain things that you're calling a grift or politicians and both sides that you hate, but for anybody. But in the end, you know, that's why I kind of feel like we're getting better. And back to you being totally nude of what values really are, so we can be as honest as we can, right? Like Sam talks about that a lot also. Like he has a ton of nudity in his stuff, and he's always like, you and him a lot of ways similar, talking about those things of like, I want to be at the most raw moment you could possibly be, to be as honest as you could be. And I think there's something really nice about that. Like, you know, it might suck because we lost a fucking shitload of money, but guess what? Now we're at least being honest about what's happening in this space. And I think in this community, and I think that's important.
I think that there is going to need to be a bit of a reckoning, to be perfectly honest. And like, you know, to your point about the political versus not political, there's something, the cognitive dissonance, right? So like Sam with crypto basically elected and overturned. Crypto won the election, right? So they elected, I guess, a guy in Ohio, and I went through and I looked at his shit and I was like, what do these American politicians do? He's voting for like a 24-hour period, a ban on kind of like abortion, that you need to wait 24 hours. If I was to replace the word abortion there with stable coins, meme coins, tokens, all of us would freak the fuck out. So there needs to be some degree of reckoning, that we need to recognize that like crypto cannot operate in this silo. It does need to be kind of like something that's integrated widely into society. And again, this is what attracted me to it, right? Like if someone can think that their wallet shouldn't have a middleman, surely we can get to understand that like my pussy shouldn't have one either. Like that kind of ethos is what's attractive about it. And I think that if we can return to those principles, that's what will guide us out of here.
I totally agree. Matter of fact, I know this is going to sound crazy. 2014, I got in earlier in 2014, but I remember having this conversation where I think the best way to integrate crypto, the fastest, most perfect way to get everybody on board is we have to have strippers and prostitutes start using it for their clients. Okay.
Sex workers already do. Guys,
right.
Check out Crypto Natrix. Benny's not being original.
Right. No. This is a while ago. And this person was like, I can't believe, why would we want to? I was like, no, you're integrating at the most basic level, at the most honest level you could possibly do to actually protect people in a way, right?
Yeah.
And give them some kind of security over not having to go to a pimp or somebody feels that they need to visit something in which they feel protected. And again, it's the raw sort of feeling of it. But to me, I know it sounds ridiculous, but I remember having this big argument. This is again years ago, and I said that will lead to us being able to use it on a scale for world hunger and poverty. And, you know, I know it doesn't feel like it connects, but in a lot of ways it does. Right?
No, I see it. I see the through line, because it's basically the fundamental premise of, hey, everyone should have access.
Correct.
So let's give it to people like sex workers, who typically have the least amount of access to institutional support, and, you know, in
Which
its
makes
own
it dangerous
decentralized
for them.
way, exactly, in its own decentralized way, crypto positions itself as its own institution.
Same with the weed business and things like that. So you don't have to go to somebody and like meet them in their car. Like it could be safe transactions.
I mean, that's why the Silk Road was so popular.
100%.
Good drugs
The Silk Road
with like a fucking review system where you knew like,
yeah.
oh, this isn't gonna be laced with fentanyl.
right.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Like it would be the idea of Silk Road, like, yes, it got out of hand, but like if we had something where there was some kind of decentralized network where you feel like there's, or sorry, maybe even a centralized network where things were safe through the access of trading these things. Either way, I think that we've missed that a little bit, right? And to me, art kind of expresses that the most, because it's literally a one-on-one transaction that you're doing with the artist. You cannot get any closer to an artist by buying their art on chain, right? And I think we need to have that conversation way more, in my opinion.
Also, it's wild that like crypto somehow, and NFTs in particular, that entire technology just became co-opted by these dumb monkey pictures. Like when I tell people from my uni, like that I got my master's with, also in fine art, that they're like, you're doing NFTs. And I'm like, yeah, why wouldn't you want to have, especially as a female artist, provenance, your date what? Like your work dated, like the posterity of that, like you don't see that, and all they can think of is this kind of culture that
Bored
surrounds it.
Right. But to be fair, I don't think it was Bored Apes. I think it was the culture of the monetary value of Bored Apes.
What was the
Like,
onboarding of
yeah.
a bunch of
Celebrities.
going back to the younger men. It's younger men
Yeah.
who were coming from sneaker flipping
Yeah,
discords,
yeah,
card
yeah,
flipping
yeah.
discords, like
Watches.
scalping bots. Like you got the most profit seeking young individuals who are very vain and showing off, $100,000+ cars they don't need, watches they don't need. A lot of them maybe not even showing off things they own, but showing off a veneer of like false wealth. And then you have the media reporting on everyone's getting rich off this shit, and then they're putting like Justin Bieber and Eminem's Bored Apes on the fucking screen, and you're like sitting working a job making $20 an hour, like in disgust looking at this shit, and you're like, I don't ever want to be with that.
Right.
And then that's what people think NFTs are. And they don't go deeper. It's not like.
But I don't think Greg and Gordon
No. It's
purpose was ever that.
no.
right?
They never
Right.
thought in a million years what they were doing was going to blow up how it did.
No,
And
I think they
that's-
were more focused on like we said last time, punk culture and things like that, where they could have niche sort of markets and communities. What ended up happening was, like you said, it just got out of control. And like that, what's his name, the agent for Madonna, what was his name again? Who was like
Guy Oseary.
Guy Oseary is like no one talks about
you
how big of a rugger he is in our community.
Well-
he never really cared at all about community. He was just using it as a moment. I've never met the guy in my life, but clearly had zero. You talk about Kevin Rose. Guy Oseary probably is, in my opinion, did worse for this market and NFTs than anybody.
Speaking
in
of
a lot of
people,
ways. Who?
a guy Siri bought that Madonna Beeple piece, and that was like the wallet wash that they did,
Yes.
which is
Well,
quite interesting, right?
I mean,
So
I don't know.
Oh, fine. I said it. He didn't. There's this whole notion, right, of we were entering the digital renaissance. And if we go back and unpack it, it's just to exactly the point that you said. If we go back and unpack it, and John Berger, Ways of Seeing, wonderful like art history kind of text as video and essay, he talks about kind of what the utility of art was at that era. And around the oil painting, the utility of it was to really pay homage and to flatter the owner. And they would often pose with themselves with all of their objects, right? What's so different about NFTs in their current application? It was another posing with your object, right? I own this object. So even the idea that we're still using kind of these flat images to dictate a person's value kind of makes me question the idea of what is the technology good for?
We're fucking dumb humans, all running the same operating system that we've had for like 10,000+ years in our head. Where it's
But I
like,
think we're trying.
shiny rock good. Me show shiny rock to you. You think I'm good. Shiny rock good. And it's just like that extrapolated throughout the course of history in some way or form. And now it's like shiny JPEG good. Gold JPEG good JPEG. It's like, it's a fucking rock.
Meme coin.
Yeah, like chart go up, Grug happy.
I think we're getting better though. I think.
I mean,
I hope. Like, look, I still say this all the time, and I'll keep saying it, that we're really not building any of this for us.
just look at
We're
like
building it for
Egyptian
like
tombs.
my
They're
kids'
covered in
generation,
gold with all their fucking
Interesting.
wealth in the tomb.
Right, but I agree. Like, I think
Like all the shit that they were like, I'm bringing it with me. Like build a fucking tomb. It's like
I will say this
Bigger.
Like I want a
Bigger than
I want a
his.
bigger gold statue than that person. But I
Yes.
do think that, I'll take myself as an example. Like, I would never be an art collector. So like for me, if I'm an example of this, of where like, okay, well, if I could be a patron or a collector of art, and I don't really care about fancy things, I care about the art. I like Bored Apes because I like the community, right? I like Oona's art because I like the message you're sending. I like Joe P's, whatever. So I think if I could be this sort of dumb sort of man that knows nothing, right? And I'm very honest about that. And I could same with you, man. Like, we both kind of like fell into this and have a love of art. I'm hoping that the struggles we're going through now of building this, and the grifters and all that, we're at least coming out on the other side of it with just amazing technology, an amazing sort of different experience, so that the generation that is locked in technically, with technology, meaning like they grow up basically like the swipe generation now. It's attached to them. They're innately
Swipe generation.
they're innately
Swipe left generation.
Right. They're swipe left. They're innately partly technology is part of them, right? I'm hoping what we're building when we hand it off to them, they're like, hey, this is an amazing thing for us to have. Again, I'm not saying it's happening. I'm just like, that's my hope that how this all ends up. You know,
But you went through the same thing I went through, I think, where like we were collecting too much from too many different people. Yeah. And part of it, even if we don't want to admit it, was because of the social capital we perceived we might have been getting and some of the dopamine or whatever you want to call it from just like, oh, look, I'm buying shiny things for lots of money. And then after a while, you kind of learn like, I'm actually doing a disservice not only to myself and my own pocketbook, but to a lot of people who maybe I genuinely didn't connect with their art or them. And now they think that I am genuinely connected. And then you have to like pull back the reins of it and be like, why am I doing this?
And it makes a big difference.
It took me like a year and a half to go through that.
I didn't buy something from Jay until recently.
Jubish?
Yeah.
Oh.
I bought some editions, but one-to-one I just got from him. Like,
yeah.
It took me years, and I waited, and I finally saw something
I think I was like first collector.
I know you were there, and
yeah.
I felt better about that purchase rather than buying it 3 years ago and then posting it on Twitter.
Absolutely, because you get to actually build a relationship that means something with the artist,
and he's
not
incredible
just based
artist
off the monetary value that you can provide them on day one of knowing them.
And I don't even like tweeting when I buy the art. Now I know it's part of it now because like it helps the artist. And you want to get the message out.
It's kind of marketing.
And it's marketing for them. But I never understood, like, it's like I purchased something for, $2 million. So therefore, I know what I'm talking about. And I never felt that way because I have imposter syndrome. I was always the opposite. I'm like, I'm an idiot and I spent this money, but don't listen to me because I don't know if I should have spent this money. But I think a lot of collectors in our space who are here still, and many that left, felt that the value of something they spent money on meant that they would get respect. And I was just like, there's got to be a different way of doing this. This can't just be the amount of money you spend. Gives
a
you
lot
respect.
of those people, I think, left.
I think not where respect comes from. That's not what the respect is. Right. That's not how you respect yourself. That's not how you respect others. Right. Like that to me is absolutely bonkers. But right now, it's funny because I was chatting with a collector the other day and he's collected a couple of pieces of my work and his response was, oh no, market shit. I'm not going to buy anything except for these two, which are basically priced above, at this point, above 150K or things less than $100.
That way he said that about your art in general?
Just in general. I was just talking to him, not telling anything. He was like, yeah, these are my 2 price points right now. I understand that. But for a robust community, guys, where is the middle? That was like what was attractive, to be like an independent artist and like an independent artist.
We lost the middle a little bit. I feel like
power laws rule everything around us. You want to buy the 150K plus piece because you think it's going to hold value or maybe slowly appreciate. You want to buy the sub $500 piece because you think it has 10x plus potential. And it all comes back down to speculating. Versus like trying to connect with somebody.
Which I think, by the way, is part of it. You can't take that out.
It's very human.
It has to be part of it or this won't work. I just wish that there was 2 parts.
It's like watching.
It would be like speculating and also like, I like this because I want to support their career and artists. Like it goes hand in hand.
It's watching basketball in 2025 versus watching basketball in 2000. It's like in 2025, you're either taking a layup or you're shooting a 3-pointer. Yeah. And there's no mid-range shot.
There's no mid-range shots.
There's no Kobe there's no Dirk from the mid-range. It's all just 3-pointers, layups. And that's now like what it feels like art collecting is like. It's like you either want your layup or you want your 3-pointer. 3-pointer being your $500 less piece, worth more. Layup being, I'm just going to spend a bunch of money because it's going to keep going up because it's actually copier people.
And what I don't understand about it, it takes away the risk. It's almost counterintuitive to taking risks on an artist because like if you really want to take risks, the mid range is actually probably the best place to be in sometimes. Like I buy in all ranges. Like lately I've been.
I feel like I do the most work in the mid range because the high range is too much.
Yeah.
The high range for me is like hard to justify now.
But I would also like to see people do what I've done with you, right? I want to talk about this because I know we're running out of time. Is mid-range to me also is supporting artists, like building their exhibits or projects, right? So like, I loved doing that. I think I've done it a couple times with you now. I don't know, but I plan on doing it more. Where I'm like, okay, I just did with Sarah Mahias also. Like, here's what I'll give you to build what you want. Give me an art piece back. That's all I ask for. And then, getting to see you create that. I don't want percentages. I don't want to rep you. I hate that
equity
sort of
cut.
Equity cut. But I like doing that a lot with artists more and more lately, to be like, they want to make a film. Great. I'll give you this, give me like one NFT of it, whatever. I think there's something really nice about that. I know you do that a lot.
It's a different model as well. Yeah. So my practice is obviously slightly different because performance art is just made for blockchain, right?
Oh my God. It's
the intangible, having ownership, great. But what most people don't realize is like, to fly to Paris and do a performance like I just did, that's a massive financial risk. And that performance, I'm not planning on selling any from that for months down the line. So having like a kind of a more patronage model that supports what we need right now, which is also events, where people show up in real life, where people have IRL connections that last longer, where value is actually made and kind of contributed versus immediately extracted. That as a model, I think, is really missing. Pantera Cheetah, she did a really great model too, where she asked like 12 collectors to like patron a practice, being like, hey, this is how much I need for this year, for this runway. She did a great job, I think that it's kind of a return to classical patronage. And the benefit from like the artist, right, is that it means that we're going to have some degree of a nice relationship, of a nice exchange, that you have respect for the way that I want to think and see, and that you're giving me agency to do it is nice. And it doesn't have the same kind of aura of speculation that we were talking about.
You're going to give me a token, and I'm going to list it 3x higher than I paid for it right now.
Well, look, I got a few Oona eggs. Check them out.
Well, Oona, this was great. Thank you so much for coming. I feel that a lot of times, like we said, people don't get to really know you. And I'm glad that I got to know you over the years. We've gotten pretty close.
Me too.
You certainly get a different perspective on just about anybody on Twitter versus when you actually like get to sit down and talk to them.
I think we were talking about this before. Your pinned tweet is sort of like a boom right in your face. Like, wow. Like, really? Okay. And it's like,
which one do I have on today?
Right. It's like that shock of like, hey, like this is intense. And then I always say that, but once you get to have a nice conversation, and I think that I would say like, there's a lot of things that you and I don't agree on.
Oh yeah. I should hope it stays that way.
And I enjoy that, but there's a lot of things that I think that we both thought we didn't agree on that we now agree together on, which is really nice. And I think that, so like, I advise people to, take their time to go to you and say like, hey, in a DM, tell me more about your stuff. Explain it to me. Understand it, And I think that will help a lot of people understand. And I stress this not just with you, and I know you feel this way because you feel very much like me. I know Deez does also, that we need to get more artists involved, right? Not just collectors. And if we have that more of that continuity and conversation, I think will go a lot farther.
Yeah. Also, on socials, I am remarkably shadow banned.
Yes.
On every platform.
How did this happen? Was it always like that?
Do you know what's funny?
Once you show boobs, that's it.
No.
Which is crazy because porn, I think, is like supposedly...
My whole Twitter is boobs because I quote tweeted Sophie Rain's money one time.
Oh, really?
Like, what's remarkable about it...
Wait, are you not on follow? You're just on suggested?
No, my my For You page. Yeah. Suggested.
So if
I follow 7,700 people. If I'm looking at following, I may as well just be looking at a waterfall. That drop looks nice, and it's like every time I refresh it, 25 new things pop up. I could sit
brilliant
here.
metaphor.
So wait,
what happened with the shadow
how'd you get shadow ban?
Basically, so what happens, obviously, because you can go on Twitter and there are...
When I typed Oona today, I had to scroll down to find you, even though I've been following you for years. It's not even like the first 5 or 6 results.
The people I can't usually find when I want to put them in my tweet. Ayla has an issue also with that. A few artists, like I'm like, where the hell are they?
Normally it's people with underscores in their names, but yours is literally made by Oona with no underscores. No,
it's remarkably simple, and basically I can like on Twitter, you can go and you can find so many graphic, very pornographic profiles.
Can you
like,
show me where?
It's like
just for the
every
research.
other one.
Research
Pussy in bio, and you're like, oh my god. And then they
You
even
can
started
also
to
find
separate
people
it out.
dying in a plethora of ways.
Yeah.
It's wild, right?
Ugh.
But my profile, so those accounts don't flag any of the community violations because the people that are seeing them want to see them. So the people that are seeing them want to see the pornography, so they don't report it. I had a tweet 2 years ago that had breasts in it, and I'd obviously pissed off the wrong person, and they went and they reported the tweet. Then that flags the tweet for the algorithm. Then the algorithm then goes and reads and says, oh yeah, she does have nudity in her profile. Okay, that's it. And then since then, 2 years ago, I've been shadow banned. But it's kind of a flex now. You know, I meet someone at a event and they're like, oh, what's your Twitter? And I'm like, yeah, spell it out. And then they show, even Twitter has this thing of you need to change your settings to view her profile. And
Wow.
Like, oh, little baby. So much for free speech.
That's so interesting.
But that's like
So interesting.
tough as an artist because it really
terrible.
hurts your distribution, and
It's
especially
terrible.
sadly in our space, for better or worse, like most of the distribution comes from Twitter.
Yeah.
It doesn't come as much from Instagram or.
I just think I like Instagram. I'm on Instagram a lot looking at artist stuff, but I do feel the communication is just a lot easier on X. I find, and again, it could change over time. And, you know, I think Instagram tried to do something like threads and it just kind of fell flat. So I don't know, but
Well, yeah, my Instagram setup's different, but I feel like I use Instagram for like quick dopamine scrolling.
Yeah, brain rot. Brain
Yeah.
rot. Let me brain rot for 5 minutes.
And then I'm out.
Yeah.
And I don't really talk to anybody on it.
Yeah.
Like I'm never, sometimes like I'll update my little bio, whatever. Like I said, like I'm going to be in New York. And then some people message me like, hey, I'll be in town. You want to hang out? But like, that's the only time I've ever used it really for like talking to people. Whereas Twitter, it's like I'm in DMs all day.
I like the format of Twitter. We're sharing content, sharing ideas, sharing this. It's become a fucking cesspit right now. And
well, if you go to For You, I just do follow now, and it's and I've cleaned up my timeline. Like I'm not going to say names.
I made a second account, and then it only follows 69 people.
what?
Yeah.
Do you follow me?
All right.
So that
Which are fine at D's account.
Do you follow me on your second account?
I think so. It's just DSFi. So my old Twitter used to be DSFi. Long story short, I got the name D's. I took the old DSFi account and it sat dormant for a while. And then like a few months ago, I was so pissed off my algorithm. I was like, I'm just gonna use DSFi, and because I didn't follow anybody on it, so I followed like 69 people.
So I've started to unfollow a lot, and I've started to mute some people that I like artists who I just can't stand sometimes, just to be very honest with you. And I don't want to unfollow them to disrespect them. So that has helped me a lot. So I don't go to the For You page anymore. I'm just like at the follow page. And
I have some curators like that. I get it.
Yeah.
You have to for your own sanity, and then you don't want to get in fights with people. And some people will get really mad if you unfollow them. Like,
yeah,
I thought we were friends. Like I met you 3 years ago that one time at NFT NYC, and we smoked a joint.
That just happened to me last week.
like
why?
you're not my best friend. Like we smoked a joint.
Yeah.
Also, we met on the internet.
I thought we had something sacred.
I unfollowed an artist.
Hey.
They were posting something that just like nonstop, that it was just triggered me, and I was like, I can't anymore. And the truth is, I hadn't spoken to that artist in years. Like, and I unfollowed them, and then I got a DM, which I didn't realize. I thought I blocked if I don't follow you DMs, but I guess maybe because I did. I don't know. They said, why'd you unfollow me? And I was like,
Oh, God, so
I didn't know what to
cringe.
do. So I actually, I'm saying this on, they might know who it is, but I wrote back like, oh, I just did it by accident. Cause like, I didn't want to start. I didn't want to follow. And like, was it something I said? And I didn't want to be like, well, it was, but I didn't want to tell you what it is. Cause if I do, you're going to say this, this, and this. And I don't want to, I can't deal with that in my
You
life
can already
right
tell
now.
what it's about.
So I just,
It's like they got 17 different flag emojis in their fucking tweet and
Yeah.
2 hashtags, and you're like, okay, like
it's gonna,
I'm not gonna do this right
It's also
now.
like desperado, man. Take the L and move on. Don't talk to me.
Yeah, so if you
I unfollowed you, it's a clear message.
If you unfollow somebody that you've had DMs with, like if you have closed DMs, but you had a conversation with them in the past,
Yeah.
and then you unfollow them, they can still DM you.
I also don't look at my DMs.
You barely look at your text messages. I was telling
Can you barely read?
I was telling her that your
Exactly.
phone is the most chaotic cesspool of vibrations and notifications. Like he does not mute anything.
I don't.
And it's just
tough. It's
better when it's on the table over there.
Right now, like having this conversation with my phone not near me,
it's good.
Is great for me. But I'm not gonna lie, like I actually feel uncomfortable. Like this weekend went away with my kids, and I took.
You don't feel the zzz thing?
I do. I feel it. Like I was in the pool with my kids. And I said,
he brought his phone in the pool.
No, I didn't. I had it in the
like,
locker.
I need a little bit of vibration.
Yeah, exactly. And my wife's like, "Are you okay?" Because I was just like staring into nowhere. She's like, I space out a lot sometimes because my ADD and whatever else I have. But like, I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I was like, listen, give me just 1 minute. I'll be right back. And she's like, "Are you going to the locker room to check your phone?" I was like,
maybe.
I looked at her. I was like, she knows me very well. I'm like, maybe. She's like, don't. And it took a lot of me. To not go. Now again, that's not just Twitter, and it's not just crypto. It's work and this and yeah, exactly.
Pop another mushroom.
That's why I take mushrooms because
they help you.
They help me tremendously.
Yes.
It helps me literally. That and I did notice recently I need to start playing more video games. Yeah. Video games is a great outlet for me, and what's great is I get to play with my kids now.
Yeah.
So it's like I get to like realize, like my kids when I hate when they say to me, you're
looking at your phone too much.
They say to me like, "Hey, can you put your phone down?" And I'm like, "Oh man," it's like that's really tough to hear because like I'm a good dad and I'm playing with my kids a lot, but like even the 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes and I'm coming from work and I'm busy from school, like for them to say that it really hits me and like I get this like gut check of like, oh fuck, like and I was like, don't worry, like you're a great dad, but at that moment you feel like shit, and so I need to get better at that. It's just find hobbies with them, but
the video game stuff is big for me. It's a way I distract myself when the market goes to shit.
Yeah.
Have you played Super Hot?
No.
It's a VR game.
Yeah.
It's incredible. So I don't like the headset, but I love how it works.
What on any headset you get it?
I think so. I have an Oculus. But basically time moves slower the slower your body moves. So you're in kind of a combat game, but if you move your body slower, then time moves slower in the game. And that for me is like one of the most meaningful interactions that I found in like VR gaming.
So if you're like throwing a punch or something and you're going slow, it's slow in the game. But if you were going to go like very suddenly jerk, it's fast.
Yeah, just like this. And then
the person
and then
fighting is going slower too.
That's so interesting.
So you slow them
down.
Super hot.
Super hot.
And the shape is all like this like kind of like white crystal and you have these red figures. It's very like aesthetically beautiful.
I have to get into VR. My daughters and my son loved it. And the best thing ever I did with VR is there's this thing called the plank where you take an elevator up like
where it looks like you're falling
like
off
100 floors and you walk on a plank and you fall off. I did it. We all did it. Like all the adults. Everybody's like, oh, like really freaked out. My daughter goes up, presses the button, the elevator goes all the way up, goes off the plank, jumps, takes his house. She's like, yeah, that was kind of cool. Like no reaction. And I did with my other daughter, same thing. Like I think like I'm telling you, kids are wired differently when it comes to technology. We are so unprepared on so many levels of what they are going to be able to do. They like all this AI stuff that everybody's complaining about. I'm like, you're all missing the boat here. This is not about us. We need to create laws and rules and fences and what this is for our kids. Like my daughter is all into AI right now because I'm pushing her into it because I want her to be used to it because it's going to be taking over the world. And these are the people that are going to literally use it every day. Right now, we're just playing with it. This is nonsense. This is just games for us. Like, the next generation is literally everything. Blockchain, quantum computing, AI, all of it is literally part of their lives. That's like a crazy sort of pressure that we have to be ready for that we're just not taking care of, in my opinion.
Okay, so how do you domesticate any animal? Every animal that we kind of domesticate, if you want to control its body,
leash.
What part of the body? Yeah, the neck. Yeah, what happened to our fucking heads? Unk. Yeah. We're already controlled by the neck. So this idea that technology is domesticating us is only going to become ever more present.
Yeah.
So
we're getting implants on our neck.
Oh, like, 2 big ones. Double D. Oh no, I'm talking boob implants.
Mechanical boobs. I'm ready.
Neuralink on your boobs.
Wait, by the way, before we go anywhere, because we're going to end soon, but where are you with sex robots? Like a serious question. Like I'm just, I know, I just.
It's just been on his mind.
Yeah, it's been on my
mind.
I never ask you this, and I talk about this a lot with a lot of people now, including my wife. Where are we with sex robots? Are we going, because they're going to happen, right? So we're going to have autonomous AIs and eventually are robots that we could have sex with. Where do you see this going? Negative, positive? Is there a way to make it okay, make it not okay? Is it going to destroy monogamy? I mean, like, I'm just very curious your thoughts on this.
I mean, I can't say that I've ever been asked this question before.
That's why you come on
That's
this
why
pod.
you came on this pod.
We're going live, guys.
Yeah.
If you've made it this far past the conversation about Penny's thumb wart
Yeah.
and our kids' videos games, I'm not really sure. Yeah, I guess generally the word that's really coming to mind right now is just pathetic. Pathetic. I suppose that there's a use case in which I'd be very curious.
Why do you think it's pathetic?
Well, I think the use case in which it wouldn't be pathetic in my mind is of someone who has some degree of like a cognitive disability or a physical disability. But I think that there's a part of life which is really about being vulnerable and intimate with other human beings and other sentient beings. And, you know, part of what's attractive about a sex robot is that you have no fear of rejection, right? You won't get rejected physically, you won't get rejected emotionally. There's kind of a layer of subservience. And it negates the otherness, right? We need to create space for people to be other so we can have this sentient to sentient interaction. And that's, yeah.
You're not looking into the eyes of the robot and feeling a connection.
So we kind of need
Also, like, how alive are you, though? Like, how alive are you if that's the most amount of human that you're able to give and receive? And I think there's a great, some scientist some ages ago, blah, 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 talks about this thing when the radio came around. So, right, he said, wow, now that the radio is around, it's going to become harder and harder for us to understand what it is to be a basic human being, right? Because there's a new energy in the world. And I think that as time and technology goes on, it's harder for us as humans to understand what it actually means to live a successful, fulfilling human life.
Well, on that, I think that was fire. And I'm glad you shared everything that you did. I'm gonna let Deez have the last word. Sorry, you should.
What do you think about sex robots?
I
got two in the
before we go there.
Also, yeah, pathetic. I guess I haven't thought about that question much at all until the last 2 minutes. Yeah. But it does seem like, you know, the purpose of sex for a lot of males these days is more of a single-sided experience and not the connection with whoever they're having sex with. And that is kind of sad to see because that's not the point of it. And it kind of goes back to like a more primitive mindset. Like that maybe was more of how men thought, like when we were hunters and gatherers and nomads and capturing a village and raping the women, like that. It's kind of a return to that primitiveness, which feels not great. But I haven't thought about it too much. That's just kind of my first.
Well, next time on the pod.
Yeah, no, I think
maybe we get rid of the question where we ask everybody about what their album would be, and you just ask them, "What do you think about sex robots?"
I mean, listen, I think about a lot of things. Strangely, I still don't know where I feel with sex robots. I lean towards where you're going, but I also feel like I think it's a larger question about like what is sentient to begin with, and I think it's like kind of like what's the difference between a sex robot or a robot that's going to clean my house that I'm not going to pay, or
you're not going to have sex with the cleaning robot?
I'm not going to have sex with the cleaning robot. I mean, I might.
You don't have a robo-rock?
I could. I don't know. I guess like I'm just trying
if we are so lucky to even entertain that question.
Yeah.
Look, like technology. Oh, okay, I know.
No, I think lucky. I think we will.
Nearly ending, but I'm just going to get this last
word in there.
That's
okay.
We'll do another hour like this.
Technology, right? It's only ever going to be made in our image.
Yeah.
So what have we been teaching technology? Anything that's artificial, what have we been teaching it about domestication?
Yeah.
It's that you can justify domestication via intelligence. We're building something which is smarter than us. So like us, if we think that 2 legs are better than 4, surely no legs are better than 2. We're going to be domesticated the shit out of us. So now it's the choice of like, are we going to be like the dog, the little bitch? You're going to be my best friend forever. Like the cow, raped, plundered, and kind of chopped up and eaten. Or the horse, which is like, oh,
are you
yeah,
vegetarian?
Cute. You used to be useful. Hardcore. Yeah. So I think it's going to be one of those 3. main ways of domestication. And I think it's kind of naive that we're perceiving that we're going to build something which is going to have more intelligence than us, and that it's not also going to learn this is what we do to dumb animals.
I'm curious to see where it all goes. I don't know. Again, like I guess I agree with everything you're saying. I'm more curious because I think it's a larger conversation, because I think that sex robots will happen. I really do.
They're already here.
I think they're going to get even crazier. And I'm really curious to see how it expands and the thought process it goes through if they become just part of society. But I think that's in general.
My name's Oona. I'm your new sex robot.
Yeah.
I think I could do.
Is that your new NFT you're dropping?
No, my NFTs that I'm dropping they're very saucy.
Why'd you tell us what you have coming up? Like some exciting things.
Well, have you heard of this place called the NASDAQ?
A little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Just a little bit.
That's where your parents met.
Yeah, basically. I'm doing a performance there, which is called The Treachery of Tickers, and it's an unveiling of 12 works. And the kind of idea is that, like, right, ticker is a symbol. And there are symbols that I've been using throughout my practice, and there are symbols that kind of, rule the world. So I'm trying to ask, why are some symbols more valuable than others? At the NASDAQ, 12 new artworks, a pretty spectacular performance that will be a spectacle in
It's
and
going
of
to be on the
itself.
floor of the NASDAQ.
No, it's actually going to be in one of the studios.
Okay.
Which I'm very excited about. And then, so about once a week, someone ends up in my DMs to bring us full circle.
Right.
Saying, hey, Oona, have you ever done like an OnlyFans? Have you thought about it? I'm like,
Oona
wow, this is like
Oona
such
fans.
an original. Actually, I like that.
Yeah, I don't hate that at all.
This is such an original concept.
Yeah.
But anyway, be careful what you wish for. I'm doing, so it's 12 tickers, and then there's 9 X-rated videos that are going on the dirty chain. So they're going on Solana, and then the 12 tickers are all on Base, and they're dynamic artworks that basically will change based on the price of the ticker. So like eggs, when the price of eggs goes up, the artwork switches to green. When it goes down, kind of having that basic performance of integration.
And this is in April, you said?
April 2nd.
Amazing.
Smart not to do it on April 1st, because
Yeah.
then
But I kind of
people would-
like April 3rd.
Well, we're very excited.
I'm always on April 1st, like, is this
Yeah.
real? Like, is
Yeah.
this, when someone
I
does-
have an April Fool's thing I'm doing this year, but I can't say it.
Okay.
So let's see if you can figure it out.
I mean, look, the tariffs go into effect on April 2nd, so I'm just like rugging myself again. It's like, I think
If
you
they
can do
go in.
something and then shoo, shoo. But yeah, that's a new body of work. And I kind of really quickly realized at the turn of this year that, wow, it's crime season. I don't want anyone touching my bare body anymore. Good thing that I'm an artist who actually expresses about ideas. So it's quite easy to lean into this. And I think that the way in which the world is going right now, it's a little bit scary. And me intellectually, me personally, me creatively, I want satire, I want absurdity, I want surrealism. I don't really want confrontation. I don't really want violence. I don't really want more aggression. So kind of that's the overall that I'm doing with my practice this year.
That's exciting.
I'm very excited. I think that I'm going to definitely probably be there because I try not to miss any of your events.
Going to the NASDAQ,
I'm definitely
You
on
wanna
the NASDAQ.
if I'm in town.
Yeah, come in. Oona, thank you so much for coming. Really, Deez and I collect together. We talk all the time. We're super close, and I think
Thank
we
you
always
for coming. I know it's a little short notice.
we just always have like a
Benny's
feeling.
sending you cryptic text
Yeah.
messages. Hey, hotel, time, 6 typos.
Yeah, come in. There's just a camera and 2 guys. Don't be scared.
Yeah,
2 guys you've never met.
Exactly.
they're both anon.
But I think Deez and I, we've gotten so close because I think a lot of times we vibe on so many things together that we agree with and
things we disagree with.
and disagree with also. But when we have people in our hemisphere that we bring in and we oh man, that was a good person. And I was excited because I really wanted you to be here.
Thanks.
And I think we both feel the same way. So
It's
you
nice
for
to get to
coming.
talk to you because I feel like a lot of people, especially just get the Twitter persona, and I'm not as spicy on Twitter, but I'm still more spicy on Twitter than I
You're
am.
spicy on Twitter.
Yeah, but I'm a different person in real life, and I feel like it's important, at least on this, to show people hey, we're all humans, and there's a wide depth to our personalities that you're never gonna get in a tweet. So sit down and talk to them and actually hear them out, because I feel just for me, my perception of you is based off of most of what I saw on Twitter, and it's just completely changes when I get to it completely changes when I get to actually meet you and look you in the eyes or through the glasses.
Yeah.
And it's been fun.
I agree. Also, thank you. This is sweet. And thank you as well. You've done tremendous work. I always find it amazing. And we should say a thank you if anyone's made it here. We've nearly had like 3 endings. So like, if you made it to this ending,
don't worry, we got a great
you
editor.
lots.
He'll take out all those ending parts. You want to ask her the last question?
Yeah, the question that we kind of wrap with
no.
is if you were on a deserted island and you only had one album that you had to listen to, full album, not just like a greatest hits, what would your album be to get you off the island?
So 2 come to mind, but I'm going to go for the more like sentimental one. My father was in a folk band in the 1960s. Awesome. And I would, we couldn't revive that album. Then I found a tape of it in an old kind of closet that he had. Then I took it to get converted, so now I have the CD and now I uploaded it on YouTube. So I don't have the physical record, but that's probably the one that I would take. And he's got some really sweet songs on there.
Can you send me that link? I would love to listen.
Yeah, he's got some really sweet songs on there about like what is love and what is the purpose of life, and it's a coming to age album. So yeah, I'm gonna go the sentimental answer, and I would take my dad's music.
So the Wall Street trader also was a sensitive musician.
Oh, he was a hardcore hippie, and then I think, like most of us, he realized, fuck, money rules the world.
I was about to say, most hippies became like, what is it? My dad always said, he's like, my dad grew up in the 70s also. He went to the Navy, then came back and became somewhat a hippie. And then he's like, one day I realized I need to make money and pay taxes. He's like, everything changed. So
they don't want you to grow up on a commune.
Exactly. Anyways, with that, Oona, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vinny.
It's a lighthearted way to end it after the sex robot question.